right. Well, thank you all for coming again.
Good to be here, Carl.
It's excellent. So this was the topic that we voted on last time, and it was Bruce's excellent topic, and the topic was what is justice and who does it serve? And as always, just gonna jump right into it. And let's start with a little prayer. Thank you, God, for allowing us to come together again and keeping us safe, and let us have a good discussion, a fruitful one, and let us have a safe travel back home when it's all done. Thank you. Amen.
Amen.
Bruce, go ahead, man.
Okay, justice and who should it serve?
Who should it serve, or who does it serve?
Who should it serve?
So two separate questions.
That's a good question to ask.
Who should it serve, and should there be like an authoritative presence, distributing justice? But like with anything, you have a seed, and if you want to grow a tree, you want to see how deep the roots go, because I want to say, in some sense, you're concerned with what direction the tree's going to grow in, right? But according to nature, wherever the sun is where the tree's going to gravitate to.
Right.
So, studying this, I guess we can start with what everyone here thinks of what the definition of justice is. First, your subjective definition of what you believe justice to be, and if I can get an objective definition of what you believe justice to be.
Okay. Subjectively, I think. Well, let's go with the objective first, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I think for there to be justice, there has to be an objective morality to fault somebody. If they're doing something wrong, there has to be some
Hold them
kind
accountable.
Sure.
Yeah.
But there has to be something that says this person's doing something wrong, and this person's doing something right. And justice is whenever someone is doing wrong, is an action that has to be inputted to correct that wrong behavior, right?
Yeah.
So we have to, at least for me, we have to first define what is right and what is wrong before justice can even take place.
Okay. And you're subjectively, you would.
What's your subjective definition? Yeah.
Subjective, I mean, that's where things get muffled, I think, because if we don't have a true definition of right and wrong, then who can say you're wrong, you're right? You know what I mean?
Who does it apply to, in other words?
Right. How would a judge bring justice if there is no definitive right and wrong? Apart from a societal context, I'm talking more philosophical context.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's when you bring in morality and principles, it's classically an is from an ought. Judges will typically rule what the law is, and then morality would say this is what it ought to be.
Yeah.
Right.
When I did philosophy, we wrestled with that pretty much half the term.
Isn't that a fallacy though? That's one of the fallacies. You can't say what it ought to be by what it is currently.
What do you mean?
That's a logical fallacy or a philosophical one. It's impossible to say what something ought to be by what it currently is.
I think that's more if you're making a argument against something.
A claim.
Right? Trying to make a conclusive claim. But in this instance, we're talking about the claim itself and not making a claim, right?
I got you.
And it's the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law.
Right.
Yeah.
The letter of the law is very literally what it says, and the spirit of the law is more what it was meant to say or meant to do. And
the interpretation of the
right, and that's why we need super wise judges. Because if you're going by the letter of the law, then I don't think the judge
that I think that makes it objective though. If you go by the letter of the law.
That's why we have the jury system and
why
jury nullification.
The idea is to get the letter of the law as close to the spirit of the law as you can.
Yeah.
But
which can be a tough task.
Fully recognizing that you probably couldn't.
Shouldn't it have been the letter of the law? Shouldn't it be created so that when it's applied, it always applies with the spirit of the law, so to say, no matter what? Because that's what makes it objective.
Like the commandments?
Like the commandments, for example, right? Thou shalt not murder. That's something if you live by the word of it, you will uphold the spirit of the idea of it. Right?
That becomes dicey when you start getting into man and how you interpret what things mean, right? Because
Right.
now, is there a difference between murder and killing someone in self-defense?
No, I mean
Well, yeah.
that's no, but that,
There
of
is.
course there is. That's why it says murder, not
Well,
kill.
that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Where does that objectivity?
Well, murder,
You decide.
self-defense is if there's an underlying threat of
That's
violence.
subjectivity. You're in the realm of
So that's
subjectivity.
in the realm of subjectivity.
But it's not. If
So
if
it
I
is.
hold a gun to your
Well-
face, that is not. It's not.
You're
a
talking
threat
about
to
you're
you.
talking about like the Second Amendment,
Mm.
right?
Mm,
Thou shalt not kill, unless of course
it's thou shalt not murder, though.
is it thou shalt not
Yeah,
murder.
that's the
Yeah,
actual
in
translation
the
of it.
So you're talking about
Ten
intent.
Yeah.
Intent.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
The
But
intent
that's not
is
subjective.
But that's not. That's
So-
not.
no,
But it
but
elaborates.
interpretation
Within the
of
framework-
self-defense can be subjective, is what they're
Within the
arguing.
framework of the Bible, that's subjective.
Within the framework of the Bible, that's subjective.
Thou shalt
Okay.
not. Thou shalt not murder.
Yeah.
I read. Thou shalt not kill.
Yeah. So a lot of people think that that's what it says, but that's not what it says. Like the actual word that's used. I don't know if it's
It's
in
the
the
original.
yeah,
like,
the original
Greek.
translation, the original language, it was murder, and it was accidentally translated into kill.
Well, it's not
I
that
guess.
it might have even been accidentally, but it's just when these different translations are done for readability,
Yeah.
people, the word kill is a simpler, easier word to read than murder. So for a translation like the ESV, the English Standardized Version, it just says kill.
Yeah.
Right? But
I
that,
think back then maybe it meant like everyone kind of understood that kill means murder as well, right? Like,
no,
perhaps.
I don't think. I think
Is understanding though? Is that going to translate the same objectively throughout time?
Well, it's not. That's why you got to be very specific with your wording.
Even if you are specific with your
No,
wording,
absolutely
the
not.
words
That's why the Ten
will
Commandments uphold
adjust over
Because
time.
what do you expect people to understand at
that.
this time?
Well, okay, so
But like before I get back to that, I still want to go
yeah,
around. so I
yeah,
wanna see.
we're
I'm
already
gonna
going.
let other people
I can do.
speak first.
Go ahead, DeAndre. Go ahead. What your subjective and objective definitions of justice?
My subjective definition of justice is that justice is an emotion, and
Do you mean like you have to be
Let-
emotionally satisfied?
Let him explain. Yeah.
yeah,
Go
yeah, I
ahead.
think it's a matter of like feeling, like you feel justice, and then I feel like the opposite of that would be like revenge or vengeance.
Okay, so
Right.
in what way? So if justice is a feeling, right, an emotion, perhaps is what you mean.
Mm.
Then, and that's like the driver of justice. Then what's the driver of revenge?
being wronged.
Well, no. Hold on. Well, if justice is an emotion, then what would revenge be? Is it not an emotion? Is it a logical conclusion? Like what is it?
I mean, it would also be
An
an
emotion?
emotion.
Okay, so they're
Right.
both emotions.
They're both, yeah.
Okay. All right. No, I'm just curious.
Yeah, and then I guess like my objective definition, like it's hard for me to define that really, because I just see it as like we have judges and we have the whole jury system and all of that,
Yeah.
and I'm just not entirely educated to have like an articulate definition of objective justice.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Of course.
So it's just like my understanding of it is like more
Does it satiate the emotion of the of the victim type shit?
type of shit.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because
And I kind of want to elaborate on that if I can, real quick, because
Well, you can't. It's DeAndre's turn. No, I'm just
No,
kidding. Go
yeah.
ahead.
well, no,
go ahead.
because we were talking about it a little, and he said that to me a week or so ago, and I had to sit on it and think about it for a little bit.
Same.
And I think what I got to was because you have to have the set rules, moral rules, in
Yeah.
order to have justice be served,
Yeah.
and somebody has to have broken those rules. It depends on what your rules are if you're going to feel justice or not. It depends on if why you were wronged and how you were wronged, and what will satiate your emotion to really feel like justice was served for you.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
And because the court system might say justice was served here, and the person who got wronged is going to say no, hell no, justice wasn't served.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
And
wasn't
so-
enough settlement money.
Yeah,
Or
whatever.
or it wasn't manslaughter. They murdered my baby girl or whatever it is, you know. And so the law will say justice was served, but in that person, justice was not served.
I think that that's why, like, now this could be a topic for another thing, but I think that might be an error in the separation of, like, church and state, perhaps, because if you don't have an underlying framework on which an entire society works off of, then everyone's going to be not even close to objectively feeling like justice is being served in any capacity or in any sentencing. You know what I mean? So I think that's what happens whenever you have, and it's going to continue to only get worse. People are going to continue to feel like justice is not being served, or it's nowhere near to being served, the more multicultural you become, because everybody's going to have a completely different, framework of morality, framework of ethics, framework of, I think that's one of the importance of religion. Religion helps you gauge, I guess, as a society, what should be just and what is not. And the more that deteriorates, the more of this will become a problem. Right? That's what I see from what Jevin says.
So, justice, in my opinion, is strictly a man-made thing. And I'm tackling that on two angles. If you want to talk about truth and morality, and say like the higher structure of, I guess, the relationship with God in society and in man, you can't enact justice there, because I don't think you could possibly create the harm needed. Right? You can't attack God. You can't objectively do evil, in a sense. On the other side of that, it's strictly a human thing. Justice is what I think it's a return or a force back into the social conduct, a social contract, I would say, in that justice only serves man, and it should only serve man. I don't think you can apply any rules of justice and what does it mean to be just, what does it mean to do wrong. I don't think you can really apply that to, say, animals.
No.
Well, that's why.
Doesn't that speak to Dre's point about it being an emotion?
Right. Inherently, man is an emotional
So
creature, right?
it doesn't serve any greater value? Or what do you mean?
Well, I think we should. I say we should, but it's not that we should. It's the way I would see it is I think it has to be strictly divorced from true morality and tied more to man's perception of morality. Because true morality, I don't think, plays a part in it. Your perception of morality is going to be influenced
I think
by
what
it.
you're saying is that it should satiate. Like, its main function is to satiate, is what you're saying, I think.
I'm influenced ultimately by the saying,
Yeah.
render unto God what belongs to God, and render unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. And we are in Caesar's domain here.
Yeah.
I believe justice is Caesar's domain. It is the domain of man. And what man has decided through the social contract, what does it mean to do right, what does it mean to do wrong, and what are the consequences of doing wrong?
No, but that doing right or wrong has to tether into the objective morality, though.
For one society, but maybe there's another society. Okay, there's billions of countries, right?
Yeah.
And they all have their
billions.
Not
Like
billions.
200 something.
Plenty of countries.
Yeah.
And they all have their own legal conduct of what is
Sure.
considered right and what is considered wrong. And that's very in flux. These things change all the time. And you could...
Not really, because there's
a couple things that are very
there's some that are
widespread.
dare I say, objective across all societies.
And I think the ones that are closer to the objective morality will pass the test of time. Like they'll
be
endure
timeless.
longer.
Of course.
Sure.
You know?
I agree.
I think the goal should be, as a society, is find that objective morality and like that would be a mission for all
I
humanity.
think that we found it. We just the
Right,
goal
right.
should be adhere to it.
Sure,
You
and
know?
the goal is to find the objective morality and to try their best to adhere to that, which is a tough task because
Right.
'Cause, man,
there's so much subjectivity in I don't know, like
yeah.
on how they want to adhere it.
Decision making,
Sure.
choice
Hey,
making.
real
I
quick, you
think-
put it on airplane mode, huh?
No, but it was fine last time.
Okay.
I think if I could just go next real quick, because I couldn't disagree more with Kevin. Is I just think I think justice is a divine force. Like all divine forces, we as humans try to strive to achieve a semblance of it. And because in order to have true justice, you have to have a just judge, a truly just judge, and there's only one truly just judge, in my opinion. So it has to be a divine force. We can always strive to achieve it and to do it however we see fit as a culture, but at the end of the day, the judges that we have here on this earth, they will not always serve justice as holy as it should be.
Oh, I see.
Right,
So
right.
you're basically saying that justice is an objective truth,
Mhm.
and it doesn't matter if humans attempt to reach it deviates or not. It's still what it
It
is.
still
Right.
is
Yeah,
what
I'm
it is.
totally on board with
Yeah,
Jeremy.
no, I feel that.
I think that ultimately comes down to a matter of definition, right?
Well, we got to finish
But that's why
objective
when
and subjective.
Two
Right.
men, or in the Bible they say when two men are arguing, and you need to settle the difference, you have another man of faith to come help.
Right.
Well, of course,
to
he has to
mediate,
he has
you
to
know?
be
To
of
mediate.
faith is very important.
I
But
mean,
yeah, no,
But really, that even just speaks to to take it out of a biblical context. You have another like-minded individual,
yeah.
Yeah.
somebody who can come in and understand the whole situation.
that goes
Mhm.
into what we were saying earlier about if everyone's different, then
Right.
Yeah.
they're gonna introduce some shit that no one agrees with. You know what I mean? So, but Kevin, I mean, you haven't. What about the objective definition that you think it is?
I think he tied them both together.
That's
Yeah,
kind of thing,
it
right?
seems-
Mhm.
yeah,
I
it
don't.
does
I
seem
don't
like
really
that.
know if there is.
That's why
I
it
mean,
was
going
hard for
to
me
him,
to
right?
articulate
Yeah.
I don't know if there is an objective
it.
because of the subjective nature of
Yeah.
man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
I just
No,
think I
but-
just don't think we will ever be able to reach
true
a
justice.
true
yeah.
objective.
It becomes
justice.
a matter of what is justice and what should justice be,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Ideally,
Yeah.
but it's not ideal.
We can't practice it perfectly, but we can strive for it. Is kind of what I get what Jevin's saying.
Exactly.
What you're saying is that it's completely subjective practice because of our subjective.
I think it's
uh,
strictly in the domain of man because
yeah.
we just can't attain beyond
I
that.
see. All right. So who's next?
You.
Me.
You haven't
Or-
said it,
or-
and Oscar hasn't.
So subjective. I mean, I don't know what I personally think justice is, man. Obviously, it's like a fair distribution, right, of right and wrong, right? Like if something wrong has occurred, then steps need to be taken to correct them. Now, what that means, does it mean emotional satisfaction? Does it mean some type of physical, value is added? It's kind of hard to say, right? So that's why I just stick to what I think it objectively means, and I believe that it's like the application, like pure application of objective morality, which I believe that Christianity has a pretty dense definition and pretty thorough definition of what objective morality is and how to go about it, and I believe that it would be the application of that, at all times. I believe that's what justice is, and one thing that I'm also not too sure about is I don't know if justice is a passive thing that is always present and should always be present, or if it's a reactive thing only to wrongdoing. I believe that it might be unjust to not have implements in place to stop wrongdoing. That's not just. You know what I mean? Now, some people might say that that's neither unjust or just. It's just neutral. You know what I mean? Because typically justice is seen as a reaction to correcting wrongdoing, not as, I guess, a preventative.
Are you
something
saying,
preventative.
Are you saying there should be more rewarding for good behavior?
No. What I'm saying is that I believe that it's unjust to not be preventative for the wrongdoing in general.
Okay,
Right.
I think that's fair.
And so, because of that, justice is a. It's like a, I don't know, like a fabric that's should always be, in existence and being strived for by everybody, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have like because in the Bible, for example, it says like if you look upon someone or a woman lustfully, that all just that in itself is already sinning, right? But you haven't even committed an action, so like there's no physical manifestation of it. So it's like even your passive way of being has to be just. You get what I mean?
With that.
You don't agree with that?
No.
So then what do you think?
Because I don't know. I'd have to think on it, but I don't agree with this.
So you
I-
haven't thought about
His
it.
intuition
but you already
tells him that
disagree.
it's
Well, I think it touches on two separate things, right? Justice as kind of a social code and morality that's kind of like an individual code. And I don't know if you could call that both justice, but I think there's definitely some intertwining there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is intertwining. Like, so is
There has to be.
what's up?
I said I think there has to be.
Yeah, there certainly has to be. So is justice like practicing morality then, is it? If it is, then is it only practicing morality in response to immorality?
I would think that justice isn't practicing morality. It's correcting
That's what I think it is. too.
leaving morality, right?
Yeah.
It's correcting the,
So staying in
the
morality is
deviation.
justice.
So staying in morality is an ethical thing. When
Yeah.
you exit, justice brings it back.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
okay.
I think he's saying the ethical morality would be just, like that's a state of being.
Yeah.
When you derive
So-
from that, justice has to be
Okay.
an action to correct that.
No, for sure. It's the wind that blows on the sails to correct the ship. As you can say.
Sure.
So whenever we say who should it serve, as to the original question,
Mm-hmm.
okay, does not having implements in place to stop immorality from happening, is that injustice or not?
Say that one more time.
Okay, is not having implements in place
Uh-huh.
to stop or prevent immorality,
Uh-huh.
is that unjust?
Name an implement.
Okay, a law.
Like
Which
gun,
law?
like gun
Okay.
control.
No.
Like
So, like
gun
for
laws?
example, would it be unjust to have a society and not have an implement to prevent murder?
Would it be unjust
Yes.
to not have an implement to stop murder?
Yes. If
It,
you have
it
a
would,
society,
it would be wrong.
okay.
To
So
ex-
is that just or
explicitly
not?
state. I don't know if it's just or unjust, but
Well, because justice serves society, right? Like we can all agree that justice is supposed to serve. Okay, I think that it has
Let's get to that, right?
three things that it serves. It serves the victim, and then it serves society, and then it might serve the ones that are distributing, I guess, the justice, who are also should be affected by that distribution themselves, right? So, but we'll get into that later. So I think that because justice serves society and it's in service of society and the victim, if you don't have an implement in place to prevent the suffering of individuals within society, that's unjust. Like in general, you have to have implements in place.
How do you implement before an act has taken place?
Well,
Right.
because you know that. Okay, so then you have to get into the objective morality. Let's say you've established objective moralities.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll give you just two that basically everyone agrees on. Don't murder, don't steal from others.
Okay.
Everyone basically agrees on that for the
Okay.
most part. Okay. Is it just or unjust to form a society and not have preventative measures in place already before those things occur?
Well, you have to assume those things would happen, right?
I mean,
Like,
Right.
like
well,
if
you
if read-
recognize that people are flawed and that it
like
will
I said,
happen.
yeah, like the difference principle. If you start from zero,
Yeah.
and you gave everyone the same amount of resources
Yeah.
and see what they would do with them.
Yeah.
Those laws would be in place once people started stealing.
So
No, because everyone has the equal amount.
Yeah.
but do you think
let
that
let me ask you this:
Okay.
Are you talking in today's
just
or like ancient before there were any law?
forever?
I don't.
Forever.
I just don't think that any law. I don't think anything can be truly done to stop anything.
No,
Right.
it's not.
Right, right. You can't-
You can't
Yeah,
even
we're not
answer.
robots,
you-
dude.
you
It
can't-
doesn't matter if it stops it or not. It matters if there's an attempt to be just.
If
Well,
you-
then
or
you
you
can't
codified that framework.
Yeah.
Then the next question is what you understand about human nature.
I mean, everyone. Okay, so I think that this is just basic Christian doctrine that humans are fallen, right? So they're going to commit these crimes. They're going to do this. They are laden with greed and envy, and greed and envy are typically, if dare I say, all the time, the reason for stealing and murdering, right? So because of that, if you were to form a society knowing these things, it would be imperative and just to implement these laws to attempt to prevent them
To
before
answer-
they occur.
To answer
But-
your question, no. I think to set up these laws to prevent injustices is a framework on which you build society.
Yeah.
And a society that doesn't have it is just not a very good
Not a
society.
society.
Yeah, and
Society.
it won't.
I don't think it's
It won't
That-
last.
just or unjust.
Okay,
Because
so
what he's talking about, like I said, with
it's
the
not a-
tree, he's talking about the roots.
Yeah.
let DeAndre because I could tell he
It's-
wants to say
You
something.
know what is on my mind whenever
Go ahead.
It reminds me of the saying in the Bible: "Those that choose not to unsheath the sword will inherit the earth."
Yeah.
So it's like, you can't really define if it's just or unjust. Just don't unsheath your sword,
Yeah.
but just have it on you.
Yeah, but there's a sword to begin with.
Right.
So-
There's a sword, but
So
You can't
if there's no sword, then there's nothing to sheath or unsheath. So therefore,
I
there's no
can-
reward at all, right? Like
I would go one step further, honestly. I would say it's neither just nor unjust. You should
it's
just
not.
be
You
prepared
should just
for that
have
society.
right. You should
yeah,
just
that, but that-
have the sword.
But then it's not if it's not serving like. Then you're not distributing justice.
Well, now you're getting into like the realm of the social contract in the individual and the relationship. there, right?
It's basically intertwined when the individual lives in a society.
Sure.
So, okay, for you to say that it doesn't matter, like the society's not good, right? If it hasn't implemented them,
Yeah.
that's just a crap society. I think that a characteristic of a crap society is the injustice of not having these implements.
The law is important. When the Jews left Egypt,
Yeah.
there wasn't any legal system there,
Yeah, that's
right?
right.
And God had to give Moses the 10 Commandments
Yeah.
so they could have order.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's like, I mean, it might be like second nature to feel something is right and wrong,
Yeah.
but until it's been written down,
Codified. Yeah.
codified,
Mhm.
and defined,
Mhm.
I think
Then-
it'll be super tough to achieve like.
There's
think
too much.
fair
There's too much
society.
ambiguity with human nature. Like if I'm starting from zero, I don't assume anything about human nature, whether they're fallen or not. But I would put in place, say, like an education system, to where people wouldn't turn out, as you say.
But I mean,
That's like saying, you know,
that's the same thing though that I'm saying.
because then we're talking about freedom. How
Okay.
much freedom do people have?
Allowing
to allow
ignorance, you're trying not to allow ignorance.
That's right.
Right? Okay, so
Well, actually, I am.
well, is it a public school?
I
So
think I think we're kind of all talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Like we're just saying society can't really even exist. There is no sense of justice without what you're saying, the rules that are in place.
yeah,
So
yeah, but my that's what I'm trying to say is that like my idea of justice is that it's a passive thing that is always occurring, no matter what. That's why I say, is justice only a reaction to immorality, or is justice a passive occurrence at all time that upholds and practices the morality?
I think
Right.
things
It
are
depends.
just, and then things are brought to justice when they are unjust.
Okay,
Do people have the capacity to treat each other fairly?
well, sure. We see it all the time.
So, like, no prejudice, no bias, no discrimination.
The capacity is there, I would say.
Yeah, the capacity is there. I think. Yeah,
Is it there though? I don't know.
of course.
I think it's there, but it's quickly stripped away from you.
I mean, there, like complete neutrality, like complete and utter neutrality. I don't think that can be possible.
I don't think it is possible.
You know, with people at least.
Well,
right?
I think it's possible, but I don't think it should be something we should strive towards.
Me neither. I don't think that's a good thing. Because, I mean, a perfect example is a lot of people feel that justice is not distributed, like, right now it's subjective. Like, let's say two people steal, and one is, like, a stand-up citizen, and the other one is not a stand-up citizen. The law is distributed differently, right? Like, one person is given leeway, the other person, because they're not a stand-up citizen, is not, right? So, let's say, like, in the world where we're headed, which is, like, AI and all that stuff, I believe that they're going to start to dish out sentencing the same amongst everybody. And I feel that, or I believe that, the same critique about the current system, that it's not fair and this and that, is going to be present
Right.
once AI starts distributing it equally amongst everybody, no matter what, no matter who they are, no matter what.
Right.
The same arguments are going to be used in that case too. So even in the presence of complete neutrality, complete unbiasedness, it's going to be unsatiating for a lot more people, in my opinion. So yeah, to the point, I don't believe that this neutrality is something that we should strive for either.
On the topic of what is justice, right? I think we've touched on a handful of things. The objective morality justice, the societal contract justice, and the framework that has to be built in a society for justice to exist. I don't know if they're all
What justice is.
well.
I think it's like pieces of the elephant.
Yeah, I think we could kind of break it all together, right, and kind of attack it from different angles. But there's something there, right?
Because once the pieces are together, then it's sustainability.
Right.
But
How
can we
sustain?
rank those three different elements then? Because I still think we have like.
Well,
I
rank
start-
in what sense, right?
I think we touched on the framework of the society
Sure.
to distribute justice, and then the subject. What was the subjective one that you talked
Well,
about?
quickly on the point of the framework and talking about whether it's just or unjust, I would go so far as to argue without the framework, you're basically just living like animals,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
there's no society.
And there's
And
no,
back to my point,
yeah.
I don't think there's a just or unjust in animal world.
Yeah, of course
But
not.
we're not animals though.
Exactly.
We're social animals.
Well,
Well, we.
we're- I mean, Bruce is of
Do
the
you
mind.
believe in objective morality, Bruce? Is there a right
Don't
and
piss
wrong?
me off now, Bruce.
I really
Stand
want
up,
to
get
hear
this table and flip over. and give my opinion.
All right, go ahead, Bruce.
Objective morality. There are some cases of, let's say, like fruit bats.
For the
You
what?
know, fruit bats.
Fruit bats.
Fruit bats? Okay.
They would practice what you call reciprocal altruism. Like any bat that eats more than its share, the other mothers would starve it to death. Now, how's it that animals know something like that?
Well,
But if you look at chimps, it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
I think we had that discussion.
So, okay, if I
No,
were
hold on,
to,
but
if
that
I
doesn't answer the
hold on,
question.
well, hold on. Let me.
We're getting there.
If I were to approach this from a secular perspective, okay,
Mhm.
and now Jay asked you if there's an objective morality. So, now, in the sense that there's an objective morality, like if I were to look at this from a secular standpoint, in the sense that there's an objective morality in that the morality is, or these things are moral regardless of humans, technically no, right? But I think they're moral because of the goal that humans are striving to always reach, which is the case with the fruit bats. Fruit bats are trying to survive,
Mhm,
right?
of course.
They're striving for survival. Because that is what they're doing, they have these pseudo moral, I don't know what you would call them, but these implements in order to reach that. Same thing with chimpanzees. For humans, what I think Jay's saying is objective morality. I think that humans have a series of systems or rules that are aimed at reaching the goal of survival. right? And that's what
Not even
Jay
just
would call
surviving,
well,
like thriving.
No,
you
no.
know?
So hold on. Well, I'm from
Sure,
a secular.
sure,
this
sure,
is from
sure.
answering from secularly,
Sure.
and I'm directing it to Bruce. So just that alone, because the bats never fail to starve the ones that are being greedy.
Mhm.
I think that it's the same thing with humans. They should also, and typically they never fail to, I guess, so to say, starve the ones that are impeding on the effort to survive. So that's, in a sense, what you would call like objective morality. Now I know some people may call that like meta ethics, but there's parts of meta ethics that have existed forever. So is it really meta ethics? You know what I mean? So given that,
What is meta ethics?
meta ethics is like ethical standards, moral standards that are within a period or within one society,
Copy.
right? So the meta,
Get it, yeah.
the meta,
The meta.
right? So given that, would you say that there is a type of standard? Now, I'm not going to say it's objective, but it's
No,
Per-
you have
almost-
to say
almost-
objective.
no.
You have to say objective.
no,
Well-
I don't, because it doesn't exist if humans don't exist.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's important.
fruit-
No,
fruit-
but even if we don't exist,
no, you don't understand what I'm saying. I don't
God
think.
still exists. You know.
Yeah, but that's not
But
what I'm
he's-
asking.
but
Well,
he's-
let's
I'm-
touch on
the-
that really
hold
quickly.
on, hold on. I
Go
need
ahead,
to
go
finish
ahead.
this with Bruce. So because those bats are eating or starving the one that's being greedy, that's a rule they have. That's like a moral standard that they have to do that. Okay. If those bats didn't exist, that rule wouldn't exist. You get what I mean?
Yeah,
Sure.
I agree.
So the same thing is the case with people. We have practices like that. So couldn't you agree
Of course.
that there are standards that are permanent across humans, like
Yeah, that's
humanity?
easy. Yeah, that's easy. Of course. Of
So
course.
that's-
that's like one illustration that I would point out. If you're doing like compare and contrast, how's it possible for animals to have this rule of reciprocity where they don't have a neocortex or they don't have a prefrontal cortex? I mean, it's like, how's that possible? I wouldn't even call it objective morality.
Well, I know you wouldn't. That's why I went through that whole entire thing to not call it that, right?
I think like I spend more time like focusing, say, like on the rules, because when he talked to like an objective framework, where right now we're like designing, say, like a hierarchy.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
needs, where, and for me, I always start at the bottom. What makes a person a respectable person,
Okay.
moral? What
Yeah.
principles do they have?
Yeah.
What kind of society does he live in, given his environment, where those kind of things are possible? You know, respect. It goes back to the first podcast, I think, on pride and ego.
Yeah.
You know, things like that have to be rooted out, like in the individual, or else we'll end up in a society that.
Is in a society,
Right.
right?
But
yeah.
that was my point, like in the beginning, because you said you wanted to have impediments, you know, to begin with,
Yeah.
where off the assumption that people eventually would kind of stray away from those principles. And I'm saying that I don't know, like when my kids are born, I don't know what they're going to turn out to be,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Now, if I had a
Okay. So.
if I'm living in the ghetto,
yeah.
if I'm
Yeah.
living in the ghetto, what can I expect?
Right.
Right. To say, like, to give you a good case, to argue your case.
hmm
You know, if I'm in a really bad neighborhood, I'd have to discipline my children like even more, right?
It's
Because if I don't,
a nature, nurture, environment
exactly,
thing.
that's me considering
Would it
the
be
environment.
at least? Would it be irresponsible if you didn't do that?
Yeah, of course.
Naturally. Yeah.
Okay.
Naturally. Because we're taking into account the environment. In your case, I don't think you took into account. You know, I'd ask you, what environment are you living in where you have to implement
Yeah.
those impediments?
Yeah. So I guess you know when I was saying earlier that. So what I was saying earlier, that would be like what I'm trying to say is unjust. That if you don't do that,
Of course.
you're being unjust.
It's also
Yeah.
irresponsible.
I-
Because
that
if you're
makes
talking
sense.
about justice, we're talking about accountability.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah,
and
for sure.
responsibility.
Teaching your children not only to be accountable, but to take accountability when they do wrong, where they don't have to be told that.
Yeah.
Hey, it starts with I'm sorry, I did that. So now we're talking about truth, being
Yeah.
honest,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
that establishes trust, right? When I'm truthful, I can go to this person because this person is always going to tell me the truth, no matter how it makes me feel. I keep my feelings out of it, right? And that's how you have a society by raising. Like I raise my boys that way. You raise your son. Everyone here raises their kids that way, just like off those principles. But that just comes with like just studying, having good discussions, say like this one.
Practicing it, right?
Yeah.
Practicing
Especially
it
practicing it.
all the time.
Okay,
Yeah.
you brought up these principles, right?
Right.
So, these principles, I'm gonna try
But
and tie it-
would that make it objective?
But I would say the principles are objective.
I think that because
If that makes
I want to
sense.
go back to the net zero conversation you started when you said you take X amount of people, everybody has nothing. Now everybody has something, right?
We'll give them the
Everybody has
equal
an
amount of resources.
Mhm. One person now has less resources.
Mhm.
One person has more resources. My argument is that everyone will know that person fucked up. It's innate in them, and then they will know that stealing is wrong. It's innate in them.
Given
Even
that
if
they stole someone else's resource.
Yeah, and whether or not stealing had ever been done before, my argument is that everyone will know that was wrong.
Right.
And that's why I think that there is.
Well,
an
not-
objective
Would they?
justice.
I mean, not if like they would have to have certain details, which I'm not going to get
But
into.
you saying everyone will know that it's wrong means there hasn't been any law in place. That would make it
Right.
subjective.
No,
Right? Then
I-
it becomes objective. Where
Well, I think a pretty easy way of discounting that would be
What if they sold all their stuff?
look at the way children play. They'll just take things from each other,
Yeah.
and unless the parents reprimand them and tell them that that's wrong,
I don't
They don't-
agree.
they don't
agree.
No,
particularly
I
do.
think
No,
I do.
No, I don't agree with that. I have seen kids know that it's not fair. And I've seen other kids stick up for other kids, and maybe they were given that sense of justice, but we're talking really, really young kids.
So
where someone has-
you don't think that someone taught them that? You think that they just
I'm
had
not
it
saying that-
innately?
I'm saying that yes, that they had it innately, because I don't think
And
I
I think
don't think that a group
Sorry.
of kids, each individually taught a lesson, are all going to rise up to the
Sure.
occasion. They're
and,
just-
and,
they're
and
just
I'm
gonna
on
do
board
it.
with that too, because I think principalities have to be discovered by people, like
implemented.
right, like
Mhm.
they're already there, like being productive and not being lazy, like that principle's already there. Someone has to discover it, and then like let other people know, hey, this might be true, like this might be part of the truth,
Okay.
and we need to like implement
Okay,
that.
I'll give a
around.
quick example. Then we got to hear what Oscar has to say. But okay, I'll give a quick example of why I think that. Personally, I think kids need to be taught. Now, I think there's some kids that may have it. Maybe it's some type of gift or something. I don't know. But I see kids that don't have it. Right. I think that collectively they need to be taught, which is one of the reasons why school exists. Right. But I'll go to a real world example. For example, AI. We haven't seen the capacity of AI yet.
And it
Don't you
scares me.
Don't you think
like
it would be
crazy.
prudent to put in implements and controls to stop from seeing the manifestation of its full power?
But who's gonna say who's gonna what rules?
Mhm.
Who's gonna implement them? Who's in charge?
Well,
There's-
I mean,
there's no way of
obviously,
even
it's
knowing
very
any
it's
of
very
it.
difficult to do that because the competing superpowers, right? And everyone wants to get to the top. Now, obviously, I understand that, but let's say hypothetically, right? That's not the case. There's no competing superpowers that are trying to reach the top.
But the only reason you would put those implementations in place
It's
are
'cause you've
because
observed
people
the
are
problem?
competing.
No,
Because if you have one body that's just
not
making
AI. No, because AI will gain its own sentience and become dangerous.
No, they won't.
but then you
Of
will
course
just
it will.
then you will just protect if it's one body that's controlling AI, they just won't allow it to do that. It's the people that are taking risks and jumps and challenges.
Why wouldn't they
trying
allow it to do that?
Because you wouldn't even program it in any way to go out of control.
Why not?
Why would you? You would just utilize it as the tool.
Well,
These
what if
implementations
what
are
if
so companies
utilization
don't
is
abuse it.
what if utilization is maximized by programming it to its full capacity?
So who's programming that?
But then
And
you-
what
but then
is
you-
the
but
right
then it just wouldn't be
capacity?
used.
Well,
It
there's
would be used. They're
there's-
doing it right now, though.
Well, there's like because I'm reading Kurzweil's book on the singularity is near.
Mhm.
Right? Everything about AI.
I don't think that it's
72
going to get sentience, but I'm just
72
saying.
computations like every 2 years,
Yeah.
right? And like he was saying, depending on like the algorithm, it's already around you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Every time you get a scam call, that's AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some AI called Derek.
AI.
Yeah.
AI.
Some weak AI.
Do they
called
have an
Derek.
Indian accent?
Very degree of AI.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
I mean, ads, right? The
Yeah.
ads you
Scam
get served
calls.
are
Scam
If you get a
calls,
scam
ads,
call-
These are
advertisements.
just algorithms.
Yeah.
They're just hyper advanced.
But you can
It's
you can
not
look
like
it up.
it's not real intelligence. But all I'm saying is, as it progresses to something dangerous, and we can pretty conclusively say that if computing continues, and they are trying to strive for it to gain a type of
Yeah,
sentience
you're
or
right. The thing
intelligence.
is, you're right.
Yeah.
Because
Don't you
as
believe
I'm
that
reading-
it's prudent and just to put implements?
But what if the
To s-
implements you put in place stifle the advancement or the innovation?
Well, the
What if
advan-
that's the point?
Yeah, that's the point. The advancement's not worth the
Well-
risk.
But if a certain innovation could aid or serve X amount of people, but what the implementation you put,
Yeah,
You said
but
that
it could harm X more amount.
No.
but who
Yes and
is
no.
to say
you
you can't just say you can't put an implement you can't stop something just because it might happen. And that's my thing.
I mean, but that's the whole point of a law. In general, laws are to stop things that might happen.
But because they've happened before.
There's laws that have been put in place to stop things from. Let's see. I'm fairly certain that there's a lot of testing that products go through to stop them from doing something that they might do, like medicines,
Okay.
right? So, I mean, that's stopping
But,
things.
but
But-
testing is not.
Yeah, of course it is, because if
No.
it doesn't pass those
that is not
restrictions,
what
No,
you're
but-
talking about.
it's
I
the
think-
same thing.
No, but those testings have been put in place because the medicines in the past have hurt people. Like that was also a reactionary thing. The whole process of testing with like thousands of people for a certain amount of time, like the whole reason that process is there is because in the past medicines
I
have
see.
hurt people.
Okay, so I mean, I don't know. I would see that as with what we know and the pattern that we've seen. So because of all the implements that we have, like technological ones, medical ones, blah blah, they have everything has always been used to hurt. I mean, it's just a fact.
Sounds like
So-
the,
and to help.
And to
like-
help,
like the microwave.
but
Wasn't the microwave used as a weapon first, or was designed as a weapon
I mean,
in
probably, maybe.
earlier wars?
you
And,
said-
and now
Maybe,
it's
but
used as a
that's my thing.
household item.
Because we
you
know,
know?
because we know of the the usage of these items, it's prudent to now tread more carefully. Especially, I mean, it's the same thing with like humans. Like you were asking, if everyone's the equal and everything's the same. Well, I come from a framework of thought that people are fallen regardless, and because of that, you have to have at least don't murder, don't steal, no matter what.
Yeah.
You have to have that. And I think if you're going to start anything, if you've never seen it before, like if there was a new country, you would have these things because you've seen them happen before. But we know that it's going to be happening forever, and it's happened forever in the past.
And that's what America actually was. Like, they knew
Exactly.
what the tyrants were doing.
Exactly.
That's why we have 3 branches of government
Yeah.
who could check each
Well,
other and limit
it's
each
kind
other's
of a-
powers.
It's kind of an odd argument to say a new country, right? Because at this point, nothing is new, right? Everything was built.
Right.
There's
from
nothing
the
new
things
under the
behind.
sun. Yeah, of course.
So if we want to argue about that type of thing, we need to go back to a hypothetical emerging society where you kind of draw the distinction between animal and man.
Let's say
Just a separate thing.
if AI did gain sentience and AI took over the world, okay,
Yes and no.
let's just say,
Let's
okay, took
assume
over the
that
world,
it could
killed
be.
all
Like
humans,
Terminator.
killed all humans and all that stuff.
Skynet.
Do you think that AI would implement its own rules?
For its own benefit, I would say.
No, of course.
All it
Yeah.
has to do
Fine.
is act like people.
All it has to do
I'm
is
being
act
serious.
like people.
Because when you read the book, the first thing they're working on now is when they look at human beings, is like, we need to design a neocortex
Goddamn.
for AI. Yeah, goddamn is
What
right.
What is a neocortex?
It's like that's
exactly?
what you call like a new brain. Everyone has it. It's a I don't have my book on me.
Mhm.
Right.
It's some shit.
Well, like I said,
It's some shit.
there are 72 computations every 2 years, like according to the book. Like what Carlos is saying, what you should be concerned with is when it passed the Turing test. When Alan Turing had the Turing test,
Yeah.
computer on one side, human being on the other side, you have a giant wall,
Yeah.
and both are talking to you. You should be able to tell the human being from
yeah.
the robot.
Yeah.
2030, there won't be any distinction.
Yeah.
And when I looked at Google, and now they have AI booking appointments for people.
We're pretty close to that.
Yeah, they're already doing it.
The
But-
wall's thin.
But
Booking
you know,
appointments for people and say, hi, I'd like to make an appointment. Like I said, if I call you, hey,
That's
Carlos,
crazy.
what's going on? How's everything going?
and you have a
Going
full
good.
conversation with me, and then call me the next day, and then
And
I
then you
found
say-
out that you talked to the robot version
Well,
of me.
you talked
the
to
day
me, it's like,
before.
hey, man, I remember what you were saying yesterday. And I was like, what are you talking about? I never called you yesterday.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, that's really happening.
Yeah,
I
so-
got,
yeah, it's
I got a
already
spam
happening.
email saying that I bought, like, thank you for coming in and buying a car,
Yeah.
and left a number, and they had a whole thing with the local car dealership,
Damn.
and so I called the number, and I was like, you know, and they put me on hold for a while, and then this, I think the guy's name was like Gerald or something, but it was an AI voice, and it was like, hey, this is Gerald,
Oh,
and I was
jeez.
like, okay, good, but it sounded
Convincing.
not for
You
me.
put in a code
you know,
and it
but
installed
my
a virus.
70-year-old mother,
It would get some
they
people,
would
yeah.
get some people,
Lot of-
but
lot
I've been
of-
on the
You,
internet.
you
my
know
whole
how
life.
like Nigerian Prince was a thing like 10, like
Hey, but
15 years ago?
you know what's wild is that scam has been a thing for like 200 years. The whole thing
I
about
believe
donating
it.
to a prince
But I
has
believe
been a
it.
scam for a
But,
long
but now
time.
like
dude.
we knew back then like that's iffy, you know. But I'm
Yeah.
sure plenty of older folks were like, "Oh,
Wild, bro.
Nigerian Prince.
Okay, wait,
I just gotta donate
we're
$5,000."
deviating.
We're
So
deviating a little bit.
let's see what Oscar has. He hasn't given his idea of what it is.
Well, my subjective idea of what justice is just the correction of immorality. That's my definition, my subjective
Yeah.
definition.
Okay.
Now, objectively, I believe that, and this is not because I'm religious, but I believe that God gave us laws and implemented in the world so we can follow those laws. Regardless if it's written or not, we as emotional human beings and as right human beings, we know what right from wrong is.
Yeah.
And God implemented that. So when you talked about the fruit bats, I mean, just all these things reminded me of a social experiment that people did with chimpanzees and a rope and bananas, which is they would get 5 chimpanzees, 1 rope, and a banana that's on the top of that rope. One chimpanzee would always go up, grab the banana, and the other chimpanzees on the bottom would get punished. They would get hosed down. They would do that for a couple of times until the chimpanzees then attacked the monkey that was going to get the banana because they didn't want to get hosed down. They didn't want the punishment.
Yeah.
Then later on, they switched it out. They switched to a new chimpanzee that didn't know what the social constructs was,
Right.
didn't know anything.
And they taught
he
him
would
that.
attempt.
Yeah.
He would attempt that,
Yeah.
and then the other chimpanzees would attack that chimpanzee. That chimpanzee would be like, "What's going on?
Yeah.
Why am I getting attacked?"
And
so
eventually
then
they had a
so
new
then-
group of chimpanzees that all
and
tied up.
eventually they
Yeah.
had an entire new group of chimpanzees.
Yeah.
Because the chimpanzees, regardless if they knew or not,
The reason
or
for the
felt
banana, yeah.
of the punishment, they would attack any chimpanzee that would go get
they
the banana.
learned the social contract.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they would
without knowing why.
without knowing why,
Yeah.
right? And I
happens.
think
Well,
I
they
think
knew, they knew why.
No, I mean,
well the
Well, they knew,
original
yeah.
yeah
They
the
did-
original
the original
chimpanzees
ones-
knew why. But this is the thing is that when we come when we come
Why?
when we come back, and that's the thing that I've been thinking about it really, really deep in depth when Bruce pulled up this conversation about what is justice, who's it serve, and then who benefits from it. You know?
Yeah.
And
So how does that speak on justice, though?
Well, in this book, Thrasymachus says government is in the interest of the stronger.
Is in the interest of the stronger.
Of the stronger, the government, the people, the rulers.
Well, of
and
course.
that's
But justice should serve the common people,
Yeah.
right?
Well, of course.
What you're talking about, like B.F. Skinner, when you're looking at, I guess my issue is when you talk about like education, especially we're talking about how to like have a society of like just people, you know, full of principles and morals. Skinner's philosophy is that of the example you gave, right? It's that of if you give people rewards, if you give them incentives,
Yeah.
you always incentivize like good behavior by giving people rewards. So there's really nothing intrinsic in them, because fundamentally there's nothing intrinsically worthy in people to begin with. So it's extrinsic rewards intrinsic motivation. So the only reason I do the right thing is because I'm going to get rewarded for it, just like those monkeys. And then when you look at society and how our culture is shaped, the only reason I do this is because I'm going to get X.
I mean, or to prevent X.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you're talking about being punished,
Yeah.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But if it's always like if I can get away with something, I'll try to do it. Because
Why is there a lot of people that aren't like that?
That's how they were raised.
And okay, so why would they have been raised like that?
Well, let's give it this.
Well,
this
hold on.
example.
What?
No.
Why would they have
in
been
the
raised
same
like that?
household, you have two kids who might excel in doing the right thing, but in that same household, there might be a black sheep who's always messing up.
Right.
They're not. I don't think they're raised particularly in a different way. They're
different.
They're different.
Yeah.
I
said, like an anarchist said, how can you have equality when everyone has different interests?
Yeah.
So I think it's iffy. Like
It's true.
how they're raised, super important, but I don't think it can alter. Like some people are just
Different.
I don't know what you're saying.
Made
because,
that way,
like
you
I
know
said,
what I mean?
Like I said, with the tree,
You gotta put them down.
I can't.
Just kidding.
I don't break the branches off. Right. Every time it grows, I break the branches off because I want you to grow this way. That's just like
You've
you were
never
saying,
gotten
it's
into
natural.
bonsai. Don't get into bonsai, Bruce. Trust me.
You find a way to ruin my arguments. No, I can't.
I mean, it makes sense though, because that's a very particular application. I think it could be the same for the way you raise kids, and I think a really good example of the kids and even the monkeys, right, is there are certain people who are better received. They receive better reward or punishment. That's how they're raised differently. If a parent only rewards good behavior, but a child responds best to punishing bad behavior, then that would go to that deviation.
Yeah, I feel that.
Another aspect of society is you will have people who like to test the limits. So now you've got the monkeys.
And then you got the liberal monkeys who are like, no, we got to get the banana.
Well, yes, but that's the point. That's correct.
That's exactly what the deal is.
A society learns, hey, these are things we shouldn't allow,
Yeah.
and we should actively try to fight against.
Yeah.
Over time,
They
they
forget
lose
why.
the reason why,
Yeah.
and it starts happening again.
Yeah. And that's
Right.
why we are where we're at, guys.
right.
So,
So
but
you develop a moral conscience, right?
Well,
they say they call it the moral judge of, say, like your conscience, say, like in children,
yeah.
right? When you talk about you could have public schools, but typically authority rests like in the household.
Right.
Right? I don't want to deviate, but we always say that two heads are better for one. Two parents are actually, tantamount to say like the child's like well-being. one or the other, the child kind of remains like unbalanced, and they'll be more influenced by his peers in public school than say like in the household.
Yeah.
I don't want to say you instill fear in the child.
Mhm.
I can say maybe a sense of like healthy fear.
Yeah.
Whether
Well,
you're
like-
talking about, I say no to
Yeah.
drugs because I know what the consequences are going to be if I have to face my parents, right?
You said something really, really important a long time ago to me, and it was that no law is worth having if it's not understood why.
Yeah.
Right? So, in the case of the chimps, they don't understand why. And so, therefore, the importance, like you were saying, the importance of why is gone. And therefore, I guess they're going to be more chaotic in their,
It's
way of being
They're going to become
as it relates to
more
the
permissive
yeah
of things that
yeah
maybe they shouldn't be permissive.
yeah
Another aspect of that is, yes, no law is worth it if you don't know why, but sometimes society loses the ability to understand why
yeah
in of itself.
yeah.
So they'd be
Oh,
more
of course.
Now where
instructed.
you at?
They don't even. They didn't exactly.
That's why I think there has to be like people need to discover that there is a moral objectivity to hold. Like we got to tether
tether, yeah,
everything
yeah, of course.
onto that. That
That's-
has to be the foundation.
That's why Christianity, I think.
yeah,
was
because apart
key.
from that, like there's nothing to tether to. Like it's just
opinion.
it would be like we don't know why we're doing this,
yeah.
but we're gonna do it.
Well, you could tether it to a strong tradition, which typically does come from a religious background.
Yeah.
But even if it was, say, like a strictly secular thing,
Uh-huh.
you would lose that tradition over time anyways.
Well, I know some atheists will even say that they're culturally Christian. and
Sure.
spiritually
Well, of course, I
atheist.
think Richard Dawkins came out. He was like the real famous biologist,
Mhm.
super against religion. He like apparently came out and was talking about that. He sees why it's important to have
Right.
the cultural Christianity. You know what I mean? That he like prefers it and stuff like that. And I mean, I think that
Atheist for Jesus, I think it was.
atheists for
That's
Atheist
sick,
Jesus.
actually.
dude. Well,
I mean, that's a step in the right direction.
it's a
'cause,
step
like,
in the
what
right
do we-
direction, dude. I think it's impossible to know what Christianity is about and actually like hear the word and read the word and study it and not see its validity. Like you don't have to necessarily believe in all of the metaphysical or spiritual aspects of
To
it, but
appreciate the
yeah, but you can
validity.
certainly appreciate its how
Right,
valid
you
it
can
is.
respect the outcome it has given for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but like the outcome that it's given to entire, civilizations
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So,
Did you have a subjective?
yeah, I think he
he
gave
does.
them
my
both.
subjective.
Yeah,
I hit both
He
of
gave them
them.
both. So, all right. So, we have like 10 minutes, but we can begin that section right now. Is who should it serve? Okay, so we kind of hit on justice and its implements and where it comes from and where we think it should come from.
Well,
So-
let me give you. 'Cause I listened to I think these Harvard lectures by Sandel. I think there was like 3 stories. Everyone familiar with the trolley car problem?
Yes.
Yeah,
The what way?
the
Trolley
trolley
car.
car.
Give a nutshell of it.
So
regardless.
you're driving a trolley car with 5 people in it. There's
Mhm.
someone on the tracks. You kill the person to save the 5, or vice versa.
Mhm.
Kind of like a argument for. Then he'll go into like utilitarianism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we can go around as
So
far as like
what
how
do
would
I
you
do?
handle? What would you do?
Well, okay.
And
so
why would you do it?
I would be in a maglev trolley car, okay? That's levitating on the tracks. And therefore, obviously, am I in a trolley car full of unsavory people?
No, really, you're not in the car.
You're not.
You're
yeah.
on the side.
Yeah.
you don't
have
know
to, you have to pick.
who's.
You don't know
Well, I
who's in
mean,
the car. It's 5 or 1.
It's like at that point you're basically weighing the literal amount of life, right, that you're saving, and like a logical reason would be, or a logical answer would be, you save the 5. Right.
Whose logic?
I mean,
5/1.
I mean, it's
But
it's
whose logic?
no. I
But-
mean, it's
but
just
that-
logical.
But
It's like
that's,
it's like
that's an
that's a-
objective
that's a
thing.
good
Yeah,
question.
that's
That's
Yeah.
a good question.
No,
Whose logic
Whose
is that?
logic is that?
No, because okay, if you don't know if there's 5 in a car and one, okay, I mean, I can take you through a logic ladder.
Well,
As to why
here's a
You
good.
save the 5.
I would say here's a good one. You're standing there. You've got the throw switch, and you can change the track.
Yeah.
There's one person you know that's tied. You don't know what's in that
Then
car.
I'm obviously I save the person I know.
Is that obvious to you?
Well, if it's someone who I believe is a valuable person, that I know them well and I know their situation, all that stuff. Yeah, dude, I would probably save the person that I know. Quite frankly, because I think that I mean, if it's people that if it's someone who I believe serves the world that I live in, the world that we live in, well, right? I think that that's a reasonable thing to conclude.
Do you think there's consequences for that though?
I mean,
Yeah, but you're
not
gonna have
if,
to live with the consequences
No.
regardless. Like
Yeah.
even if you
I mean,
save
bro, you
5,
said-
and
wait,
kill-
so-
no,
wait.
you don't. No, he didn't.
yeah,
Not
you,
if you don't do anything.
you
I
have
think
to.
Dre's in my camp.
No, that,
Not if you
I'm
don't
not
do
flipping no
anything.
switch.
I
Yeah.
just don't do nothing.
well, no, if you have to.
Not-
The idea is you have to.
No, you don't. No, you
Well,
do not.
Oh well,
Okay.
if I don't, then I wouldn't be in the situation either, bro.
You don't-
Obviously.
Well,
So you're telling me that if I
situation-
was tied up to the tracks and I was about to get lopped in half, and there's 5 other people that you don't know at all, you wouldn't save me.
Why the fuck are you even tied to some
Bro,
tracks,
no,
Carlos?
bro.
That's the first place.
You know what I mean?
What the hell did you do?
What the
To
fuck?
get in
you know?
there, bro?
Get up.
Sounds like you're.
I was chilling. I was chilling at Costco, and a couple of guys said, "Hey, you want to look at this truck we're selling?" When I went out there, they nabbed me up, put me on some train tracks, and
then-
they used that same truck to get you to come out of your Costco across town. I mean, bro, like it's
bro,
just a hypothetical.
Back to
And
the
then I
topic,
could give
though.
you another hypothetical: the lever jams.
Or you gonna act like the lever jam?
I think they are.
Yeah. I'm gonna just let
I think
slow
this
mo
is.
run.
Go ahead, Oz.
Mathematically, I would choose to save the 5.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean,
Mathematically.
Yeah, like,
But this
that's-
is the thing is like
logically, yeah.
when it comes to knowing somebody, I would be in the same situation as Carlos.
Yeah,
If I know somebody.
yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I could save 5. If I do mathematically, I can save the 5, but what if those 5 people that I save
Or not good people.
are murderers, rapists?
It's a
Yeah,
prison
but-
card.
yeah, but
It's-
what-
it's-
but
yeah,
what-
it's a prison card.
dude.
What if
exactly.
one guy holds up a picture of his family and he's like, "Please"?
But that he ripped from a magazine.
But-
You're only incriminating yourself, right?
yeah, but okay. So
In
the
the
idea
decision.
is that you have to.
But
act,
the
not
idea,
that you
yeah,
can't
the
abstain.
idea
I
is
mean,
that
no,
you
no,
have
no,
to act.
because
though.
abstaining is an act.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
active
my
not
God.
acting
okay,
is
how
also
about,
an
how about
act.
this? Your arms are connected to the damn thing, and
Sure.
any type of thought you have to.
Well, no,
Move it.
because
How about that?
in the scenario, your options are to veer the track or let the person die.
So you just let the person die.
And so by doing nothing, you're letting the person die.
Yeah.
How
that-
many
that's
here
also
would
an
do
act.
nothing?
No.
I would do nothing.
I would do nothing.
I would need.
How
many here
I need
would-
much more
It's,
would do
information.
something?
It,
I would need much
in
more
this
information.
hypothetical where you have to do something, yeah, I agree. I wouldn't do anything either. But if I had to do something, I'd probably save the person.
I would probably say
if you had to do something, that's your only option.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's going forward. It can't stop,
Yeah.
right? Brakes don't work. Nothing. Right.
The
That's
best
what I'm
thing
talking
would
about.
be save the 5, go up to the tracks and try and save the 1.
Let me make it. Let me make it more.
You
let
guys
me,
are so stupid.
That'd be the best way, dude.
let me make it more difficult.
Yeah.
What if it's your brother,
Right.
your
I
mother?
gotta save my brother. I gotta save my brother.
But you
Mom,
can't stop.
dude.
You don't have a choice. You can't stop.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's tough.
Yeah. Somebody you know. There's another example. Plane crashes. Three or four men are like in the boat. They're like lost at sea.
Yeah.
It's a case 1800s. They're starving to death, and one had gotten like really sick.
Yeah.
Right? And chances are he most likely die. So the other three have a discussion among themselves to kill the
Eat
one
him?
and eat him.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, one morning got up, so and so, giving his testimony, takes a knife and stabs him to death. Right. 3 days later, helicopter shows up, saves the three, and they have to go to trial, and they give their testimony. So
That would be
Who
a
should-
tough case to
I,
judge.
I couldn't say what I would do.
Hold on,
Yeah.
hold on, let
If
him-
I'm
let him-
starving,
let him
Let him
finish, let him
finish.
finish.
who should
Take the punishment.
I don't think anybody should take.
how do you
the
I
distribute
mean,
punishment?
They're
in this
all
case?
at fault.
Well,
There-
now you've got the family of the man who died
Mhm.
in that.
Yeah,
You know,
that
in
wants
that courtroom.
justice.
Yeah.
The question is, did he give his consent for them to kill him
Right.
while he was still alive?
Can you give your consent to die like that?
You see,
Really?
Yeah.
He said, I don't, don't kill me.
Yeah. Well, okay.
And
so
in their defense, we
They're
don't know
all
if we're
gonna
ever going to get saved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
just let
You know,
him
something
die,
like that
you
actually
don't have to.
happens.
yeah.
But my
No,
approach
I mean,
is that
of
if
course.
he dies, then yeah, I would,
Yeah,
but I'm not
have
going to
at
kill
him if he dies.
Yeah.
But killing him is what's unjust.
thanks,
Like,
Jalen.
Yeah.
Even then, I'd be polite enough to say,
Oh, I
do we have your permission to?
Fuck.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Could really start with an arm.
Yeah.
that's
I
pretty
got
rough.
chunky fingers.
That's pretty rough.
Nuts are off limits.
I would probably say like, yeah, I don't think that I would murder his
Yeah,
ass. You know what I mean?
you
But
would- you
at the
shouldn't.
same time, like, dude, I've never been starving, and I heard that starving is
Yeah, it's
like
different.
legitimately
it's different.
starving.
I
mess with
think
you.
equal distribution is, at least for me in that situation, equal distribution is the most important thing.
What do you
For
mean?
justice.
No, equal distribution in the sense
body
of
parts? You get an
yeah,
arm?
An arm.
equal distribution would be the same thing. To be
What are you
honest,
talking about? Like
Are
distributing
we
the
talking
body
about
parts?
Actually eating them now?
no.
Yeah.
For example, if we are all in that situation and
Yeah.
I'm the one who's sick,
Yeah.
and y'all are thinking about killing me,
Uh-huh.
let's talk about how
I
we
could
get
see Oscar. Well,
how-
let's talk about this.
I personally would be like, hey guys, like, there's like 5 of us. What arm are you giving? What arm am I giving? What part do you want to give? Like,
That's
the
crazy.
divvy
No,
out.
I mean these hypotheticals, like they're all fun and stuff, and they're kind of like very obscure, type of who should justice serve. Now, in this case of the family, like you said, the family, so we go into like justice and revenge, which is something that he said. I personally believe that justice is more of like a rational,
Irrational,
rational
rational.
thing that that you come about, and revenge is an emotional thing that you come about. So
yeah.
and the reason why is because justice should be for longevity, right? One of its missions is to create a long-term peace
Yeah,
within the
that-
ones who
that
have
too-
faced the wrongdoing.
That too, and I think it should also serve a fair punishment.
well,
Because vengeance
so-
can be like,
hold on. Yeah, of course. Vengeance can be, but at the same time, I don't believe that people who have not or did not face the immorality or are not victims can necessarily say what's fair.
right, because of the emotional, like they
Burden.
want vengeance.
Because of the burden of the emotions and the
Yeah.
burden to I don't know, the financial strain that if that was their dad and he was the one making all the money, all those things that come into play into who's to say what's fair for the people who have suffered the loss, right? So that's why I have started to believe that I think that justice is like it should be tiered, and it should serve the victim first. Secondly, it should serve society, and then it should serve the distributors of justice. Yeah, the institution, right? And I've really been thinking about that, especially now in current times that we're in, when people steal from other people. And I brought this up to you that I think that whenever someone steals from someone else, regardless of what it is, I believe that the person who's getting stolen from should be able to act in however they see fit. Just complete, however they want to deal with the person who's stealing from them. They should have complete immunity at that time.
Wouldn't that venture towards vengeance then?
No, because you can't say what something has taken me to get, or what something's worth to me, what kind of threat I'm in at that time. You know what I mean?
So
Like,
you're all about John Wick.
You don't
Yes.
you don't you don't think the punishment should fit the crime? Let's say a child is stealing a pack of gum.
yeah.
Should the owner of the shop be justified to do whatever they like?
Pull out the
Pull out
cannon.
right. I
mean,
think the punishment should fit
so,
the crime
okay,
though, for it to be just.
But okay, for it to be just, you have to serve the victim, and you also have to serve society. If you're administering, in this case, and I know this is kind of
Well, let me
maybe
just push
extreme.
back against you for
Hold
2
on.
seconds.
Okay, go ahead.
Because earlier you said that the victim cannot dictate what is justice.
No, I
What
didn't
is
say that.
No,
the
no,
victim
you
can't
said
dictate.
you said
I said that if they want revenge, it's purely emotional.
that's what we're. I
But
think
that's what you're leaning on when you
right,
say if somebody
right.
gets something
So I
stolen
think it
from
should
them.
be.
But I'm
Wait.
not though.
Yeah, if you're saying a shop owner could do whatever they want to prevent stealing.
Yes, to prevent stealing from.
But you applying
them.
you applying your own personal individual value to something is you applying your emotions to it.
Right.
No, no, absolutely not. I can quantify it. I can quantify the value of my things.
But
Literally,
then
with time and money.
then you're also at that time quantifying the value of someone's life who is
No,
stealing.
they're the ones that put themselves in the value of that thing. Whenever you steal from someone, there's an underlying threat of violence, because you're saying that I'm going to take this thing regardless, right? If I steal from Kevin, I have to back up my action with an underlying threat of violence against him in order to take the thing from him.
So how far should the shop owner?
I think that you should.
How far can they take
I think
it?
that you should be able. They should be able to take it as far. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you don't allow people to protect their things and themselves, then how much can I steal from you until you put me down? If I steal a penny from you every single day, now you say day 1, that's 1 penny. Day 2, oh, it's just a penny. Day 3, that's a penny. So, someday it's going to be your entire net worth, your entire life savings, your home, everything. It's going to be everything. At what point would you say we got to deal with this person in a more serious, manner? At what point?
So have the justice system do the punishment.
Okay, and what's that punishment? What would that punishment be?
That should be discussed.
I think that
That's
it
what the
should be
institution's
up.
for.
It should.
Right.
And the institution should allow the victim to protect their things with full measure.
But you're saying protect your 1 penny at full measure, and that's not
Right.
But that's my penny.
Sure, but like this is going. You're
I
you're
mean-
going in the realm of vengeance.
No,
then,
no.
dude.
So, but I'm not in the realm of vengeance. I'm not. Why?
I
Why
think
should I
because
allow
it's
you?
not logical.
No,
Like,
it is. It is
I-
logical. It's
I get where he's
100%
coming.
logical.
I get where he's coming from.
To help your case, I think that only applies if you're talking about like kidnapping another human being. As far as like
And I'm not talking
objects,
about protecting your home.
like
stuff.
cars,
Dude,
or
right,
dude,
someone
no.
stealing your house, that's different.
I don't think that's
Well, let-
different. Again, when I come to steal from you, there's an underlying. So not only
I'm not saying there should be.
not
a
only
punishment.
is there a quantifiable amount that I'm stealing from you,
Okay.
there's a logical conclusion from not allowing me to defend my thing. So now, okay, let's say there's 20 guys and each of them steal $1. When can I then act appropriately? The law says, oh, it's just $1. Okay, so then
The law doesn't
500,000
say it's
guys
just
can
$1.
come and steal $1 from you
Yeah, the
because
law-
it's just $1.
No, I mean,
It doesn't make sense, dude.
let me give you another case. A guy pulls over to the side of the road.
Uh-huh.
Right, drunk driver comes, kids get out. Drunk driver hits the guy's kids.
Yeah.
Kills him.
Yeah.
He pulls out his gun.
That's a real thing. I've
Yeah.
heard of one in
pulls
Texas.
out a
that
gun,
happened.
shoots the man. The jury acquits him.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that
Me neither.
because I would have done the same thing.
Sure.
You know,
That's why the
I have
jury
kids.
acquitted him.
Yeah, I have kids.
Yeah.
But like you said, if I told you before, your faith is going to be tested. I mean, if you have faith
Yeah.
like that, everyone, well, Aristotelian definition of justice is to each his due, right? It should be to each his due in time, right? I told you I don't believe in you just can't wrong other people, right, without it coming back to you, whatever it is. If there's some moral divine law in place where you're going to pay, you most likely will pay.
Right.
That's where your faith should actually be
Yeah.
rooted in.
Of course.
That sometime in the future, whether you think you're getting away with it or not, you're going to pay for it.
Of course. I mean,
I really believe that.
I think that I believe in that too, but I also believe in a disintegration of just everything if you allow people to chip away even a tiny bit at other people.
Mhm.
You know, and that whole stealing a penny is that allowing to chip away. Oh, it's only a penny. To you,
I'm not
it's
saying
only a
it's
penny.
only. There should be a punishment. I think
think-
like I said, punishment should fit the crime.
Okay,
That's
and,
the thing, right?
But
is here's to go with Carlos.
yeah,
Say somebody goes and steals someone's car, wrecks it.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the material value of that car? If you're saying that the crime should fit the punishment, then you go by the material value of the car. Now, this person spent 30 years saving up to buy that car, and is now their only means to get to their job, and they're living paycheck to paycheck, and they get the remuneration of the value of the car. They have no job, and they've lost those 30 years. Where's the crime fits the
yeah.
the
It's,
justice?
it's,
But that's
it's,
when the institution comes in and they take a look at those.
Right.
but the
of
the
case.
institution can't give back the time. The institution can't.
Yeah,
give
but
back-
you can't, like, if something's been wrong to you, you can't go back to the original spot where nothing's been wrong to you.
Of course you
Right.
can.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but you can give someone the ability to stop the wrongdoing, right?
Sure.
And to dissuade further wrongdoing against them.
But
Or against
empowering
somebody else.
somebody to then seek justice to whatever extent they see fit is not giving them the ability to stop something from happening to them.
Of course it is. Well, if you're stealing from me and I have full ability, that doesn't mean I could just go and kill you tomorrow. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that I can find you with my car in a week from now.
You're
now,
stopping the act.
You stop the act. Now, I have other opinions on that, right? But right now, as it stands, I just don't believe that we can say, hey, that was only a penny for him. What if the penny is the only thing that the guy could have possibly ever earned over the last 20 years?
I guess I misunderstood because I agree with being able to defend yourself and your belongings and preventing the act.
I don't care how
agree,
small the belonging is.
But I don't agree with if your belonging is stolen. I don't agree with you then going to any measure or any extreme to retrieve that belonging.
Of course.
because I think also a manner of committing the crime also matters. Like, there's a difference between burglary and robbery. You know, like,
Right.
and
That's
and,
why I was
and
saying-
robbery is
Sure.
weighed way heavier
That-
in the justice.
That's
system.
why I'm saying especially if someone's putting up your life for your item, right? Like if I'm gonna steal Kevin's car, and he's in the car and all that, I am therefore saying to him that his life is now worth the item and all that. So I believe that regardless of the item,
They should reciprocate.
that you should be able to reciprocate fully. And in the case of, like, if I stole your car and you find me next week, dude, I mean, I don't think that it's fair for someone to say that you shouldn't be allowed to get your shit back. That's wild to me, dude.
No, I'm
But
So
I'm
how would you get
not-
your,
I'm not
how would you
saying
get
that
your
either.
stuff
yeah,
back?
we're not saying that. Like,
However you can, Bruce.
Can
Is that moral?
can you
I think so.
steal what belongs to you?
Huh?
Yeah, can you
Can you
steal what belongs to you? Okay, then.
No.
Well, there you go. And if you, in the act of you trying to retrieve what belongs to you, again, there's going to be a threat of violence against you.
Okay, so then we're talking about how do you define freedom? Because freedom in this context that you two are espousing, I can do whatever I want.
Well, no.
How do you do? Well, that's how most. If they're doing that,
I mean,
that's
but
how
you're-
they see freedom is.
but
I can
you're,
do whatever
You're
I
not
want.
doing whatever you want. You're,
Well, they are doing whatever they want. If
Only-
they're stealing over and over again,
Oh,
stealing
okay.
your penny.
Sure. Oh, you're talking about the thief.
Yeah, the
Oh,
thief.
okay. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, you can do whatever you want once you found out that at the end of that penny there was a double-barreled shotgun, big boy. You know what I mean? So I mean, yeah, like of course the whole idea about freedom and responsibility starts to come in, but let's say that those are already general implements that all of society recognizes as freedom and responsibility, right? Which I'm not sure that all of society does recognize that. Let's just say, but that doesn't. I don't know. That doesn't bring freedom into question, in my opinion. That just because the thief is choosing to do wrongdoing.
Well, how do you
Yeah.
define freedom then?
I mean, the ability to pursue your interests.
Self-interest.
Yeah, your self-interest, but that does not mean it's at the expense of others.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that's the objective definition, but people don't believe that.
Well, you gotta.
There has to be constraints to it.
But that is the truth, though, right?
Yeah,
Like
it is.
it doesn't matter what people believe.
Yeah, it is the truth. But
That
it's
is the
how
truth.
it's why are people acting this way? How is it that they're acting this way? That's their definition of freedom. That's why you have to,
Yeah.
thou shalt not steal,
Yeah.
thou shalt not kill,
Yeah.
or murder.
Yeah.
Thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not.
Yeah.
Right.
So are you trying to make the case that basically that's not freedom?
Well, it is freedom, in a sense, but I'm not arguing for it.
Wait. It is freedom to have the thou shalt not, or it's not freedom to
You
have
have
the
free.
thou
You
shalt
have thou shalt not because, I guess to argue your case, it's people may have a propensity for, say in this context, theft,
not. Mm-hmm.
right? Because their definition of freedom is I should be able to do whatever I want. Same thing like with a child.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't establish boundaries very quickly,
You don't have that framework.
Yeah.
They
let
start
me
taking-
take and take and take and take and take and take.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
Stop taking.
Yeah.
With an explanation. You can't take what doesn't belong to you. That does not belong to you. Like I said, that's where it starts.
Starts in the family for sure.
But if that, I mean, of course, I agree. But for the people that don't get that,
They've
Right.
never been taught.
and-
Or
but,
you have
but
to.
the,
You
that
have to
burden
remind,
isn't mine.
Well, you have to remind more than instruct.
but
If you
that
instruct,
that burden's
then
not
you
mine.
remind, huh?
That burden's not mine.
it should be.
Why?
Why not?
As a
Be-
positive member of society.
That's right.
Yeah.
How do you contribute?
So okay, so
Well,
the
you
burden
contribute?
of so like the manifestation of that ignorance,
Mhm.
okay, as it's harming me, the burden's not mine to correct it. The
Well,
burden.
yeah. If you scale it all the way up there, I'm talking about like at the beginning.
Oh well, of course the burden's mine.
Okay.
Like
Well, that's what I'm saying.
okay, well, fine, I
That's what
agree.
I'm
Okay, then I agree, right? But like that's what I mean. That's kind of like
Yeah.
what we got going on here, right?
Yeah,
That's why
absolutely.
when if I have a kid or whatever, like of course the burden's yours, the responsibility, right? You are putting in the implements, like we discussed earlier. But as you suffer that ignorance from someone
Mm-hmm.
who's already grown, that burden's not mine in that moment.
Your burden, like let's say you killed somebody who's taken a penny from you.
Uh-huh.
Your burden would be that you killed someone for
Yeah.
taking that penny from you.
Of course.
And you're gonna have to live with that,
Yeah.
for better or for worse.
Yes, and I think that, I mean that should give some people pause, and others may not have that pause, but they may suffer, they may not. However, it does serve society in general that now the "thou shalt not steal" is reinforced, not only because hopefully we have the teachings that it's wrong for your character, right? You don't get the innate fulfillment in yourself if you do something like that, but also because now they know that doing something like that can yield very bad results for them.
Oh, they wouldn't know because they're already dead. You know?
Well, I mean, but if they start to see, I mean, that's why back then they used to
It'll
cut
teach them
hands
so.
off,
Yeah.
because then you see
Well,
thieves with no hands.
Yeah.
you don't have to go that far back.
Yeah, you
It's happening now.
really
You have to go
it's-
down south.
Yeah, it's happening now, right? Like I think I don't want to say what country, but one of these countries down south cuts ears off of thieves.
I'll
Okay.
say that
So
I've had a house vandalized in another country by a man with no arm. Imagine why he didn't have an arm.
yeah, well there you go. So
And he still didn't learn.
yeah,
I guess it just made it easier to fit through windows.
yeah.
Didn't learn.
So but in that case, and he still didn't learn.
He still didn't.
So that's why I think that the full extent should be given to the victim.
It's like if he still didn't learn, it goes back to what Bruce was saying. Like your faith is just going to be tested.
Should justice serve the assailant?
What does that mean?
I mean, it should
The
teach him a
person
lesson.
Who
The
was
criminal.
immoral, the criminal.
Yeah, the criminal. Yes.
yeah,
to teach
I
him
think
a
so.
lesson.
I think so.
We missed that in our lists.
Yo, you're right.
Well, I mean,
Right.
he's last.
He's
He's last.
I
He
think
might
he
be
should be
second.
served before the institution.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
okay,
sure. I
sure.
think he might be second.
No, third.
Third.
What's the second then?
The second is
Society?
Society.
Society
The
is
victim,
second.
society.
Victim,
then
society, the
Yeah.
Then
assailant,
the institution.
and
Then
the
the
institution.
Yeah. Right now, I believe, as it stands right now, I believe that the institution is being served first.
I
Yes,
believe
same,
for
100%.
sure.
That's a huge problem right now.
For
Because
sure.
the institution is also serving the self-interest of its
Right.
constituents.
And,
Of
and,
itself,
that, and
right.
that goes back. I'm glad that y'all put it and y'all agree, because as much as I wanted to go back, I was trying to figure out who does this serve, who does this serve, who does it serve. For me, justice right now is serving the government,
That's the institution, my
Yeah.
friend.
which is the institution.
Yeah, of
And
course.
I've
Great
and
point,
and I've
man.
tried 100 times
that.
to figure out in different scenarios and stuff like that, but what leads to it is back to the institution.
Of course. You know,
Because
it's
the
damn
institution
pity,
is
too.
the one who implements those laws. They're the ones who
I mean, not only that, like they have made like a feedback loop to continue
To go back to
benefit
it,
to
yeah.
themselves.
Like
You
a
know what I mean?
positive
Yeah, like a
feedback,
positive feedback loop for themselves. And I personally believe that one of the reasons why they don't allow people to just start blasting thieves or protecting their property to the fullest extent is because of this feedback loop.
Because
Okay.
they want criminals.
They
want criminals.
need, not want, they need. Okay. And that's one of the reasons why these laws that don't protect citizens that are following the law, who are working and all that stuff, basically are the bottom of the barrel. Quite frankly, that's what it seems like, you know. And I don't know. I thought about that whole theft thing for a long time, and I can't see a more just system than allowing people to protect their things however they see fit, no matter how small it may be to you or to whoever.
Right.
It's the victim who should be able to decide.
You're right.
I
but,
agree in
I
the
mean,
power of defense.
I just feel like at the same time, just imagine. It just sits so wrong for
Right.
me.
Emotionally, it's hard to
it,
accept. I think.
logically,
We're talking about
yes,
proportionality.
but
Murder.
Imagine
what sits so
someone-
bad for you. What's it so wrong for you?
what if it's a kid
Okay, so
steals
can I-
for me? I blast them.
Dude, kids are used to steal from people all the time. Like loads of children are
You're
used
right.
to steal from
You're
people.
right, Carlos. But the act of just
Yeah, you're
lo-
blasting a
okay,
kid,
giving the
you know?
life away of a
I
child.
I mean,
Okay,
you
so-
don't have to do
So
that.
so
you know?
if you're
Well,
in
yeah,
that,
but-
if
but
you're in that situation, you don't have to do
Yo,
that.
I don't have to.
Right.
Exactly.
But then it goes back to
Then what's the problem?
what if it's somebody else that I know?
Why
For
were they-
imagine,
why were
what
they
if I don't
stealing?
do it? Look, what if I don't do it?
Uh-huh.
But then you blast a kid, and I know you, and you're my best friend. Bro,
Okay.
I'm gonna have to live with.
live
oh
with
man,
what?
this guy just blasts fucking kids for like a penny.
And that's
for,
what
for
I'm-
fun? It's not like it's not like
No,
I
no,
would
I'm
do
not
it for
saying
fun.
it
And I'm not
for
saying,
fun.
and I'm not saying that I would. However,
No,
let
yeah,
me give you a
yeah.
scenario. Let me give you a scenario. A kid breaks in your house in the middle of the night. You're with your wife and kids. What are you gonna do? You can't correctly identify. It's a 13-year-old kid. He's breaking through your shit, rummaging through your shit. What are you gonna do?
Assess the
It's in
situation.
the middle of the night, bro.
Assess the situation.
Lights are off. What are you gonna do?
You're gonna start blasting.
I mean,
Of course.
I would.
Hell
look,
yes.
I would blast, but until I can assess the situation correctly,
I-
I'm not just gonna full blown blast like.
Dude,
it's
I don't think that you. I'm not sure that you understand how much of a high stressful situation
It
is.
is. I know.
To have your house broken into in the middle of the night. You're waking up to the windows getting.
Carlos, I've been
burst.
robbed.
Okay,
Like,
so then-
I
so then-
know how hard.
And I don't see why this is a problem. Quite frankly, you know what I mean? Dude, it's the same thing. Like if you go to war, let's say you go to war, Oscar, and there's kids carrying AKs, killing your boys.
That's the thing, man. It's just this world is so, and this goes back to the world. This world is so corrupt
I understand.
and
Dude,
fucked
I understand
to
that,
the
dude.
point where then my morals and my like, it's just like
You
what
have the
Bruce
option.
says.
You
It's-
you
you're going to be tested.
you have the option
Yeah.
to not. But I don't believe that you should enforce that on everyone else.
Yeah.
Okay?
I see where
Just
you're coming
because
from.
you don't want to doesn't mean that other people don't value their things more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see something
Yeah.
you wouldn't put
Okay?
that in
Ju-
a
You
law.
don't- yeah.
Just because, okay, what if we were on a platoon and there's a platoon of kids with AKs blasting all of us?
You'll make a good director.
You have the option to say, no, I don't want to kill those kids, and now all your boys are gone.
But
You
you're
have
under
the
orders.
option.
You're under orders.
No, let's
You're
say the
under
orders are
Do as you please.
no, that you can fire. You can fire upon the enemy, bro. Those are the orders. You can fire upon the enemy.
But obviously,
you
But,
have
you,
the option,
but,
right?
but you use discretion.
Dude, I mean, kids with AKs blasting all your dudes.
of course.
In war, and it happens now.
Mm-hmm.
They have to deal with that. Now, if you are a person, who wants to be more gracious in your distribution of
punishment,
elimination
Force.
of force, all right, then you can deal with it how you see fit. But I do want to say, regardless of whether you do or don't, there's repercussions for both options.
True.
And I believe
I
that the
don't-
burden of those repercussions should be on the person who decides to act on how they want to
That's
act.
fine. You check out the movie since you brought it up of the soldier that decided not to kill anybody, right?
Uh huh.
Because that was against his faith.
Yeah.
God told me I don't take anybody's life.
I saw this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think-
Went over there and he
which one is
saved
it?
he saved everybody.
Yeah. Wasn't he a medic?
Yeah.
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 No,
This
no,
is
he
against
wasn't
mine.
a medic.
He was a
a
medic.
foot soldier, but he refused to shoot.
Okay. But,
Hacksaw Ridge.
Hacksaw Ridge,
yeah.
that's what it
Yeah,
is.
but see, but here's the thing, man. Let me. I totally respect it. I totally respect it. However, the only reason he was able to do that, I would say, is because there was people shooting.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course.
Absolutely.
So
But
if
he didn't take
everyone
anybody's
decided
life.
to do what he did, guess what? They would have lost the war, and they would have lost the battle, and
But he
all of
also
them
saved
probably
their
would have
lives.
died.
Yeah, he also saved their lives.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but there. I mean, there.
And this is the beauty of humor.
gotta have a
Like,
little bit of all.
Yeah, you gotta
right, this
have.
is, right, I think.
I'm not saying you're wrong because there were
Well, I'm
people.
taking it that way.
No, I think that's a great point because I think there are different roles for different individuals. You know,
Of course.
like-
Everyone has their own path.
right, for sure.
Yeah.
So, like someone who is out there refusing to shoot
Yeah,
and choosing to save my brother in arms,
yeah.
that's like super commendable too. Like, and that also takes so much courage. Like, it wasn't like he was
course.
being a coward doing that.
No, dude.
I would argue
no,
he was more courageous.
That's even more
Absolutely,
courageous.
absolutely.
For sure, that's even
sure.
more courageous.
What
I
even
agree.
happened then? They were shooting the enemy to protect him.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. There has to have been someone shooting for him to have been able to do that.
For sure.
People opposite of his way of being facilitated
For sure, for
him
sure.
to
And
be able
that's
to
why
do
I
that.
think different roles matter. You know, we need
course.
someone like Carlos.
No,
we
I
need
wouldn't.
someone like
Okay,
and
I'm
we
not
need-
gonna be out here blasting kids, bro.
And
I'm
we
just
need-
saying.
And we need someone like Oscar to give someone
crazy.
a second chance so
That's
they can be a
nuts.
better person in the
Yeah,
future.
we need butchers like that guy over there.
Yeah, we need Carlos to
Bro,
just.
no,
fucking
and I'm not saying that I
go
would.
off.
Look, in that scenario that I pointed, someone breaks into my house, blah, 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 dude, I
No hesitation.
I
just
would
straight up.
No,
shooting.
no, I would do my best to protect my family. Right?
Yeah, right. I think that's a great.
That's absolutely
Right.
what I would do. Now, what that would entail beyond that, I
Right.
do not know what I would do.
Right.
That,
No,
but
'cause
that's when you're creating the data to figure out and
Right.
assess the situation.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: he wants the ability
Right.
to
Yeah,
do
right,
whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Well, yeah, for
Right.
sure.
Okay, so then that's my argument.
no,
I
I'm-
should
I'm-
have full immunity to do what I want to
give
do.
me a penny.
I think
So
that
if
that's
you're-
how you should do it.
If you're on trial, right?
Yeah.
Carlos is on trial.
And they bring this podcast up and say, "Look what he was saying."
He's been waiting.
And he shot a
He's
child.
been waiting for somebody to break into his house.
Yeah.
He shot a child.
Yeah.
Right? To make it more complicated. Child breaks into your house,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Let's just say you give a warning shot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
go downstairs, kid's running away.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you shoot him in the back,
Uh huh.
right, before he gets off your property,
Okay.
um,
Is he outside or inside?
outside.
Oh,
running
well,
away.
that's kind of
Yeah, you can't do
That's
that.
You
wild.
can't do that. You can't
That's
do that.
pretty crazy.
It's against the law.
Half out the window.
No, but what if he stole something at that point?
Okay,
Like,
so-
he
so-
has a freaking.
Okay, so-
he's got your
No, but
Omega
here's-
Speedmaster in his
here's a-
pocket.
Okay, so
But
here's
here's
the
the
thing.
case. We're on the jury.
Here's the thing.
All five of us, do we acquit Carlos?
I think that I would acquit the person. Yes, I would.
No, but you're on trial.
Oh,
we're
well,
the jury.
Okay,
Yeah, we're the
so
jury.
I
We
would.
acquit.
I mean, y'all are
Yeah,
my
you-
boys, so you would acquit me. No. So here's the thing. I don't
Bias.
know.
Bias. Let's just say they didn't know we all knew each other.
Yeah.
And we're and
Yeah.
you come out there and we're all sitting there.
This is
in the,
crazy, dude. This
in
is
the jury,
crazy.
you know, and
This is
we're
so,
sitting in the room.
That's the beauty of the jury,
Yeah,
is that
you get to be judged by your peers. Yeah.
it doesn't really matter what the law is.
yeah.
Jury nullification exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
If-
that's so
If
smart
I
too.
go
wild.
to
So
a
smart.
jury for one of these cases, I can sit and listen to the facts.
Mhm.
And as much as they want to play up, it was a child,
Yeah.
you know, they were making mistakes, this man didn't know, whatever, I can put myself in those shoes and say, with what he knew at the moment, what would I have done? And I can choose to acquit.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I think, dude.
I would not acquit somebody who shot a warning shot and then shot somebody in the back as they were fleeing the house.
I would.
I think I would too.
I would.
I think I would too.
100%.
I would need more
Bro, look,
facts.
I'm not gonna lie, man. Like, I think that going into someone's house, stealing from them and all that shit, I can't think of too many other crimes that are just as ridiculous as doing something like that, bro.
I would.
I agree.
I would say that doing that is intent to kill.
Yeah, I
100%.
agree.
Well, when you're breaking
I
into
agree.
someone's
When you're
house,
breaking into someone else's house.
Yeah, that's
Or their car.
I 100% agree, bro, because you have to have the intention of producing violence in order to do something like that.
I think you can have the intent to flee or have the intent thinking that no one's there.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't
I've
think,
stolen
I don't think
before.
burglary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've stolen before.
Is that
dude.
justice?
I
and,
understand.
and on the back of my
I think
mind, my,
that it
my
is, yeah.
intent wasn't to
I-
kill
I
someone
have
or even
broken
hurt
into-
somebody.
But
you
how do they
separate-
know
but
that?
Separate. But
They
separate.
don't know
Okay,
that.
so then
Exactly.
there's an underlying threat of violence
But separate,
because of the ignorance. They
separate
don't know
justice.
that.
Separate justice from revenge
Yeah.
Sure.
in that context.
Yes.
Okay, so how do I separate it from
Yeah.
justice from? Okay, so okay, how does it serve the person who's being victimized? Well, they stop any further theft from that individual. They can gain their things back. They stop the threat of violence. Those are three. How does it serve society? Well, it serves as a deterrent for other thefts, knowing that people have full immunity to deal with them however they see fit. That's how it serves society.
I think you
Right?
could all, because in my freaking weird mind, someone could bait out a theft. Leave some money out there.
Yeah.
of
With
course.
a sniper ready
I
to
mean,
shoot
no.
somebody.
Illegal. but
Yeah,
Yes. they
yeah.
can.
I'm just saying
That's
they
a trap.
could
No.
with that logic.
Okay,
so
but
like you could
okay.
create monsters
Dude,
like that. I'm just
with
saying.
currently, you can still do that. Let's say don't allow people to defend themselves at all. I can still do something like that, and victimize people even harder with traps like that. Okay. In fact, let's say we take everyone's ability to defend their stuff completely. It'd be far worse than having the off psycho making traps for people.
So you're saying
it would be far worse.
there would be more good than bad.
Of
with
course,
that.
of course.
I mean, I'm
dude.
not saying you shouldn't be able to defend yourself.
Just,
I think
just,
you should
just
be able
because
to defend
there's
yourself.
there's going
I
to be.
think he's pointing to what he believes is not. I don't have to leave.
You
She's
know-
gonna take an Uber.
Oh, excellent.
cool.
All right.
She, what's almost like what's natural in people,
Yeah.
but I think you said something about juries. It's the complete opposite.
What?
It's the complete opposite.
What do you,
I-
what,
I
what do you,
honestly-
wait. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by
Because I was on the jury, right?
Mm-hmm.
Case armed robbery,
Yeah.
right? We're in there, and the first thing, well, I think he should get like 60 years.
60?
60.
Okay.
You're in-
I think he should get 50 years.
You're
That was it.
deliberating.
Who was saying this?
The jury?
Yeah, the jury
Okay.
Okay.
for armed robbery.
Continue.
That's. I'm telling you, that's ridiculous, right? You had 3 people in there that thought he should walk free,
Mm-hmm.
right?
What did you think you should get
10 years,
for armed robbery?
yeah, for armed robbery.
Why?
that's what we agreed upon.
Why? Okay, hold on. Why did you think he should only get 10 years?
Well, because that's the standard sentencing for like armed robbery. When we like weighed it all out,
So,
and I just averaged maybe like about 10, maybe
do
10
you
to
think
15
that's
years.
that's reasonable?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
You have to have room for rehabilitation.
10
You,
years?
you can't
Yeah.
you can't just drop the hatchet on every
Right,
single
and
criminal.
that's the thing. Like, I think justice should serve the assailant because you want to give them the chance to be better in the future.
He's being
Now 2-3 strikes.
he's
like
being
you
he's
might,
being
you know what I mean?
he's being punished, but the women in there that thought that he should go free
That's ridiculous.
took up all the time. They're crying, they're whining, think about his family.
Oh my god.
I think they're looking at the fact that I was black, and the armed robber
Was black.
was black.
They're trying to get you to on their end,
Yeah.
basically.
They're looking directly at me,
Oh,
and I'm like,
Jesus.
no, you're no, he's going to prison. I think that's been established.
Yeah.
No,
Everyone
yeah.
else,
Yeah,
you know.
you don't get to you don't
Yeah,
get to
you
You
get
don't
to
put a gun
commit
in a man's
armed
face.
Armed robbery
robbery.
is crazy.
because I'm telling them,
Walk
you don't
away.
put a
Probably
gun in a
liberal
man's
white women.
face, right? And all the evidence is there, the gun's there.
What about the family of the victim?
Yeah.
Did you bring that up?
Yeah,
Why don't they think about something like that?
they just. I don't.
I mean,
That's what I'm telling you, dude. Victims
Walking,
are at the
last
bottom of
one.
the barrel, bro.
free is crazy
That's
to me.
nuts.
That's fucking
It's
crazy
like
to me.
never again.
like
That's
three
never
like
again.
three people. What
3?
Three.
And there's
ultimately,
12,
Bruce-
right?
Oh yeah,
No, there
A
was
smaller jury.
It was
tends to
smalls
be
like
9 or what?
Eight?
It was like 8.
eight-ish.
but see that's ultimately
God,
why you
that's-
should be
That's
on more
almost
juries,
majority.
you
Yeah.
know? But not.
No.
That's
not
There's too
that's
much-
nuts.
particularly
There's too
by-
much bias.
Well,
Kind of
if it was under my
Well,
system,
that's the point.
that guy wouldn't be.
That's the point.
What do you mean?
You know?
That's the
But
point
you
of the
see-
jury aspect of it, right?
To eliminate bias?
There's codified law,
Sure.
but your peers don't have to agree with the law, and that is the point of the jury system. What if we got rid of juries entirely?
Then it would be
So
the
you-
AI
I
system
think
that I'm
it
talking about.
most likely-
Yeah,
it would
objective,
be-
way
it would-
more scary though.
That'd
It'd be
be
better-
crazy, but it'd
it'd
probably
actually
be better.
better than
I think
it
it'd
is
be
now.
better.
You think so?
Yeah, because you're
Well,
talking
what
about.
if you don't have
our,
all the picture though? Like
our-
you only have part of the
Well,
the truth.
go
Our,
ahead,
our,
Bruce.
our,
Go
our,
ahead.
our system is adversarial. You know,
Yes.
like a
It's a game.
adversarial as opposed to say like inquisitorial.
Yes.
Where
Yes.
they gather all the evidence. I want to keep, as you're saying, human emotion like out of it. People simply can't be objective, no matter how much evidence you give to them.
I'll tell you.
That's my issue.
Bruce, I have a question then. Then what's your thoughts about when people get falsely accused of a crime?
Mhm.
They were completely innocent, went to trial with their peers, they decided that they were
Guilty.
guilty. I mean, what's your thoughts about that? Because
Yeah,
that
that-
has happened a lot as well. So, I mean, and I'm not saying that being judged by my peers is not a bad thing. I see the good and the bad part about it.
Most of
I'm
my-
just saying the whole story, if the whole story has not even been completed and it's just part of
I
a
mean,
story.
you gotta
most
work
of, most
with
of
what
my,
you got,
most,
though.
most of my friends are attorneys. The selection process works like this. If you're a gun owner
Yeah.
and I'm representing you,
Yeah.
let me see who
Who's a gun owner? Yeah.
Yeah.
Texas
That
white
guy's got a
Yeah.
cowboy hat.
Texas
That guy's got a-
white.
No, I know.
gun owner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I select
yeah,
them.
I
There's a-
select
there's
I
a
that.
whole
select them. So
questioning
that's not a
process,
selection
too.
process.
No, I
They know
understand.
full well
They
That's
know what they're
wild,
doing.
bro.
that people stereotype
wild,
and are
too.
Yeah.
biased.
They know what they're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
You
I know.
cannot escape that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It does
I know
not
that.
go away because I'm providing evidence.
See, that's
Right.
what. That, this is
If
again.
I'm defending you,
Yeah.
right,
That's gonna be tough.
and it comes out. I say exactly what you said.
Yeah.
No, this person broke into Carlos's house. He has an obligation to protect his family.
yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Second Amendment rights apply here. Right to protect your property applies here. Someone broke in his house and he acted. He has a child. He's defending his child, right? They take one look at you, giving your testimony. Because if we had a one-on-one and I heard exactly what you think, I'd say maybe it's better you don't say anything. Let me do all the talking.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to react,
Yeah.
right? Because I've already assumed how most people are going to react,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yes, I studied their brain long enough to know if you provide evidence to people, they're not going to get it. They're
Right.
going to reject it.
Yes.
They simply will reject it.
It's
That's
nuts.
crazy.
That
dude.
is why
It
people
is,
have
it's
so
been.
wild.
It is wild,
It's
bro.
so
Try reading
wild.
it. Try reading it.
No, I mean
This is-
it's
When you
on
read it,
purpose.
you
It's on
don't-
purpose, dude. It's on purpose.
This is
Why?
why, though, the jury system is important, despite all of that, right?
Mhm.
It's because one person on that jury can't sentence a man,
Yeah,
but one person can make them walk free,
sure.
and that's all it takes.
And it only takes one person to sway the whole
They
room
call
too.
it like, yeah, and the same works in the reverse.
Yes.
You
Me,
need a
you,
unanimous
7
decision.
Yeah, me, you, 7 other rational people. One person. Well, I don't believe that.
Right.
They call it the one idiot syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works the same in the
12
reverse.
Angry Men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same in the reverse.
I
The
mean,
default being they walk free. That's the default. You can't sentence someone when 6 people say not guilty and one person says guilty.
Right.
That is the saving grace here.
Mm-hmm.
Is at the very least, it's innocent until proven guilty.
Mm-hmm.
You get rid of the jury system, and now it's what? The bias of the judge?
Yeah. That
Well, then we're back to is versus ought.
Yes.
Right.
given that you have the whole picture.
There
mean-
I shouldn't read things like judges make. The sentencing is indicative of whether they've eaten lunch at a certain time, and
Right.
it influences their decisions.
Right.
I shouldn't read that because that stood the test of time. I shouldn't read that the gunman at the University of Texas had a tumor pressing against his amygdala, which is why he killed like 31 people.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, but that
When you're talking about-
again, the burden of dealing with that,
Mhm.
it shouldn't fall on us.
But do you take that into account?
no,
If that's part of the testimony, if I show you FMRI and
No,
there's a
no.
tumor,
No,
like on
You
his
you
brain.
got to deal
But
with
it's
the
gonna-
consequences.
yeah,
honestly.
I mean,
You
it
should've
doesn't
been hitting your
matter, dude.
checkups, you know what I mean?
It
But
doesn't matter, man.
But the thing is that person's fault that he had a tumor growing on his brain.
No.
His negligence of his own health is his fault, and so that doesn't give him an
Well,
excuse to.
we
commit
go back
murder.
to
Yeah, I mean that's
we
a
go
good
back
point.
to Carlos's system.
That is a good point.
We go back to Carlos's system, which I think is perfect for if you ever suffer in a jury. The victim first, society second, the assailant third.
Yeah,
The
the
institution.
Yeah,
institution.
I actually
Yeah.
I think that's a
Yeah.
fair
Victim,
ranking.
victim. That's.
I
I
think
think
that's
that's pretty good. You know what I mean?
I
As
mean,
far as
the-
far as distributive justice,
The
Right.
the assailant,
Well,
tumor and all, right?
equally.
But
that-
what do you?
that
What do
goes
you wait,
distributed
hold on. What do you mean? What do you, like, as in how you distribute justice? Is that what distribute? Okay. Yes.
Like everything
yes.
you said should apply equally. In a just society, thou shalt not kill or murder applies to everybody. Thou
Right.
shalt not
Mhm.
steal applies to everybody.
Right.
Right.
Right. But at the same time, you understand that people are different.
Yes.
Of course.
Right. You have to take account.
That doesn't
it's
absolve-
Machiavellian. No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah. Okay.
But you have to, at the very root, you have to teach accountability.
Yes.
You have to teach consequentialism. Right. You have to design a system that's, I'd argue, probably a bit of both. Right. Because we're not having this discussion where you would argue that juries are very important, and I would say to make them as important as you believe they are to be, to focus on like the little things, teaching people to have respect for one another.
yeah.
It could start there. If I have a respect for you, I have respect for your property,
Yeah.
Right.
not to steal, not to, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it, like, in what I was saying, you know, about how I
But-
think. Go ahead. I don't know
Yeah.
if you want to go ahead.
And then like I like it's in my notes. I knew we're going to get into this, you know, the woods of like this is ought distinction. This is how juries is. This is how they ought to be, or I'm more like on the ought to be, which is morality based,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so like what I was saying is, you know, what I'm saying about how I think it should be, like where people get the full, should be able to have the full responsibility and the burden, right, and the full freedom, responsibility, and the burden to act in the way. It's not because like I'm merciless, you know what I mean? It's not like I think that there's no grace to be given, but I do think that. That grace in that moment shouldn't be
It shouldn't be like mandated.
well, no, I mean, like do you understand that telling people that they have to be graceful and merciful in a moment of like extremely high stress. Innocent people, that they have to be merciful and graceful against someone who is, you know,
In the act of
posing them an incredible threat. Do you guys feel like that's kind of insane?
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
I think that's
But do you given your I guess your latter, do you see yourself as a victim?
all the time. So
in what context? In
do,
what
do,
context?
do I see myself as a victim like in the moment? You
Or
mean?
gen-
Like,
Well, no, you
Generally
said
speaking.
you guys said victim and then
well, like a victim of this type of
Of
crime,
crime.
in the act of the crime.
right?
right.
Right.
Well, I mean, you guys laid out the way it should be structured. You said victim first, and then
Sure.
Well,
And
no,
then
but I said
society.
all citizens. So what I said is citizens should have the freedom to respond in however they see fit.
once they understand the definition of freedom,
Well,
which is discipline
I,
and accountability.
well, hold on there, Bruce. That's a big one right there, big guy.
I would
right?
agree with that.
You know that. Of course, they should understand freedom and accountability and all that, and responsibility, all that, of course, right? But what all I'm saying is that I feel that having limitations on citizens, innocent citizens, on how they respond when they're being threatened or a crime is being committed against them, I think that's unjust from the get-go against the citizen.
Like
And-
if you
and
remove the ability for
if-
someone to protect themselves,
yes, if
is an act of injustice.
is an act
I
of
can see that.
injustice
I agree.
from the
I can see
get-go. And that's why I go back to what I was saying in the beginning, that you have to have these implements, right? Or you are already being unjust. Even if the crime's not being committed, even if nothing's happening, you're already being unjust. And again, that is why I believe that it serves the institution first. Because this type of injustice requires a what's it called? The institution to have to step in once something happens, and that serves the institution only.
Right.
And that's a huge problem, in my opinion. That's a humongous problem.
so you're more like me. You're more of a originalist
Yeah,
when it comes to the Constitution.
Yeah,
Because the
100%.
first two chapters in this book talk about interpretivism and non-interpretivism, which originalism, non-originalism.
hey, real quick, when you bring a book, say what book it is, the author and everything.
Oh,
I don't think the
No, it's okay, just-
they don't see it. They're not
Principles
just
and
holding it up for
policies.
nothing.
Hold it, just read off the title.
Constitutional Law, Principles, and Policies by Erwin Chemerinsky.
All right.
So if you're an originalist when it comes to the Constitution, then it's as the framers intended. First Amendment all the way to the 27th. If it's non-originalist, there's always room to expand on
Right.
free speech. There's room to expand on, right? Because there's always going to be ambiguity, right? Or conservative and ideal, like again, what I put here in my notes: ought versus is distinction. Bill of Rights. Yeah, there's no. I think studying behavioral science. I think I think the biggest mistake I made was studying biology and psychology first, and then studying law like second. Because when I study law second, knowing, having I'd say maybe a surface understanding of human behavior and how they behave, forced me to change my perspective just a little bit as far as like administrating like punishment,
Sure.
right? Actually a lot, but at the same time, I always go back to, well, how to assign accountability? How do you educate people to hold themselves accountable for their actions, hold themselves responsible for what they do?
Yeah.
And then if you had a society of people doing that, would you have a more just society? And then could you keep it sustainable?
Yeah.
So it's a game of narrative ethics, right? And I play this game like all the time. I just, what I do is I go through cases. One case, guy and his girlfriend. The guy has I think 6-year-old from a previous marriage, right? What she does is she's not getting the attention from him that she wants, so she decides to punish the child by turning on the water, making it super hot, and then holding the child in the water while the water burns its skin off. Father comes home and he hears the child crying in the bed because, it's like in
Skin
pain.
is seared off. Yeah.
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 Oh, don't worry about it. He's fine. He's just always whining and complaining. Right?
Jesus.
Child passes away. She ends up going to jail. Right? Gets in court. The first thing they want to plead is that she was insane.
Right.
Right? She didn't know. She didn't know.
Naturally.
She didn't know what she was doing. Right? She was under duress. Right? So who should justice serve in this case?
Now, again, the victim.
As a matter of fact, everyone's blaming the man. Why didn't he get up and go check on the child? Why did he just sit there? Why did he believe that? Well, when she said
You know
the child was
you
okay.
want to know something wild about that?
The
Bruce?
thing is, when you listen to something like, are you more likely to be subjective or objective?
Right.
Well, I think that if
How do you keep emotions out of that?
Again,
That's
if
natural.
if you apply the tiered system that we've come up with, I think that you kind of arrive to, you converge in on a good conclusion, right? Well, that you have to ensure that justice serves the victim first, right? And this whole idea about pleading insanity and all this, again, insanity is not our burden to deal with, like
As a society.
yeah, the manifestations of its wrongdoing or whatever is not our society to deal with.
It is insane. It's insane not to do anything about it.
Yeah, so
But what gets me is I would distribute even harsher penalties when it comes to harming children.
Sure.
oh,
Closer to
absolutely.
the death penalty when it comes to harming children. That's just something I can't.
Yeah,
It's an emotional response, but it's also, the way I see it, a rational one.
yeah, no, I think so too.
There's some objectivity to
But
that.
it's also
sure.
like, what could that child have possibly done to you?
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Yeah,
Children.
and you're talking about,
Yeah, no, of
furthermore, you're
course.
talking about someone that can't defend themselves.
Someone who,
I think
by necessity, has trust in the
That's
parental figures.
That's
No,
right.
no,
That
not-
makes it even worse.
not only that, like I think that how you can perfectly rationalize that the death penalty is good is or is the proper response to harming children is when you're around a child or around children, you have to exercise a degree of the opposite of negligence, right?
Yeah.
So I believe that if you're harming kids, it shows an extreme level of negligence at the very least, and that extreme level of negligence is a humongous burden for society, and for that reason, it should be eliminated. You know,
Better a millstone thrown, put around their
Yeah.
neck and thrown in the ocean.
yeah,
On the topic of pleading insanity, this is why I believe we should bring back institutionalizing people.
yeah,
If they want to plea insanity, life institutionalized.
yeah. Of course, that's one of the things I think Vivek Ramaswamy was talking about bringing institutions back. Don't mean to be name dropping so much.
Complete with the shock there.
but
Yeah, but then
completely shocked there.
then I can see the. I mean,
Everything can be abused.
exactly, and that's the thing is that the more and more that I've been researching this topic, is that everything can be abused and
Yes.
everything can be manipulated and everything can be dicey.
Typically, and this is the way that I see it, is typically these abuses are in the service of the institution.
Yes.
Yeah,
Jury
and
selection.
exactly where I come back to is the institution. Who does it benefit? The
The
institution.
institution, yeah, of course. Now, and the problem is like then the question arises, and many people want to, is get rid of the institution.
But then,
But that's
where
the free
is
market.
Yeah, that's anarchy.
That's the free
Yeah.
market.
Yeah. Well, it.
And then you're looking
Yeah,
at what's the
I can
relationship?
see.
What's the relationship between the market itself, the institutions that people need, and distributive or procedural justice?
Well, what do you mean? Like you're saying, like the as it stands now, it's the free market, or it would become the free
I
market.
see the
if you get-
institutions that say like the free market.
Well, no, I mean not really, because there's nothing that can compete against this institution that we're talking about.
What institutions are you talking about?
Well,
The judicial branch
the
of
the
the-
justice system.
Let's just talk about
The
a
three
single
branches?
one.
No,
Let's
just
talk about
one.
a single
This
one.
is justice.
Harris County law.
Yeah, Harris County law. There's nothing that can compete against it, because it's the only one. That's not a free market.
Okay. Well, I
a
just wanted to
monopoly,
make the
quite
distinction
Sure.
between
Yeah,
the
Of
yeah,
course.
okay.
So if it was free market, and I think that a free market would solve a problem like this, right? But how do you implement it? Well, there's places like, let's see. I think South Africa, right? Now, I'm not saying that we should become like South Africa, but South Africa has like where they have a different security, like police that take care of different places, but they're all privatized, right? So, from what I understand is that they're like very good in, the way that they go about things.
That's when you start veering into things like those random communities in Europe where they have police that are enforcing Muslim law in
Yeah.
countries that are not Muslim.
Yeah, I see, but that's because there's nothing competing against them.
so what?
Yeah, there is the societal.
Well,
No,
the
no.
societal refuses to
Yeah,
do
the
anything.
society
So they're not
refuses,
competing.
but there is no other societal implement that competes with it directly, right? So, like, for example, public and private schools, right? Private schools compete with the public schools. That's more free market than what we have with the justice system in these areas. Now,
Sure.
well, of course it is.
They don't compete with them.
Of course they do. They
Yeah.
blow them out of the
It's
water.
an alternative.
Well,
Yeah, it's an alternative. You have the
you
option.
can make the distinction that the competition isn't there because there's many people who don't even have the opportunity to
Right.
consider.
That doesn't
public
mean,
school.
but that doesn't mean that it's not a competition.
it still exists.
Do you
And
think
there
that
are-
public schools don't wish that private schools didn't exist?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Of course they do, because they're competition.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean.
It's
I
not a
don't even,
full-blown-
I see them as completely different, not competing at
Why-
all. I
why?
say as private school against private school. You
That
know,
makes
school
sense, 'cause
like
public
Exeter.
schools, that's the baseline. Everybody goes to public
Yeah,
school.
but the other option means that there's a competition against the baseline.
I think
If-
it's not a
if,
threat
if
yet.
your argument is it's like the competition between like a private school Wendy's and a private school Burger King, and then your public school is the sewer.
Yeah.
That's one thing, right?
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Sure.
I'm just saying. they're
Just
different.
because public school sucks
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it's not
Because
competing against.
if everyone here had the money, they would take they'd put their kids like in private schools.
Sure.
The
course.
education's just radically different.
But I would argue that the only reason that it's the way that it is because of all the amount of restrictions against making a school. You
Or
know?
public school or private.
Private or public. It's difficult to make a school in general. And therefore, whenever someone makes one, it gets very expensive. Now, we have cases where, like, churches are offering schooling. Public schooling,
Homeschooling.
right? Homeschooling.
Group schooling.
What is it? The dual where partial is public and partial's at home. Stuff like that, right? That's all competition because people are wisening up to how to do something or compete in the system, which
Well-
always occurs.
Well, I mean, because I've been homeschooled, even then I could say it's not that different from going to a private school. In a private school, where there's like maybe 6 to 10 people, what you learn is you learn public speaking. You
Yeah.
learn appreciation for like the arts. You learn literature
You said
You-
it in private?
in private.
Oh, okay.
You know, different is I don't really see it any different than say like homeschooling,
Sure.
Yeah.
right? You learn, like I said, appreciation for the arts. You
Yeah.
learn to respect authority.
Yeah.
You learn, I
Well-
say, public speaking.
Well, you also learn why the authority is even.
There's no,
there,
but there's no,
right?
there's no provisional self-esteem like there is, say, like in public schools, where your esteem for most kids may be attached to their grades,
Sure.
right? There's not. It's not. It's fundamentally like obedience training in public schools and
Yeah.
stupidity. There's no competition that I can see whatsoever
Yeah.
between private and public school. They're not competing.
Oh,
with that.
I see what you're saying.
And
Well,
private
but
school-
I think the reason why you're saying that though is again what Kevin says is because private school is just so much
It's not
better.
even close.
Yeah, the quality is so much higher
The
that it's like
competition,
it's in another
the
tier.
blanket of competition is just education system recognized by the government.
Yeah.
That's all.
But
Yeah.
we're never gonna get another court system that's recognized by.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
It'll
That's
never
my point. There's like no other type of justice system. So therefore, this one's a very
It has to be repaired. It can't be replaced.
yeah, it
Well,
can't be. I mean, it could be replaced, but
here's-
it would be very
here's
hard
my
to do
thing.
that. Right?
Here's my thing with the jury system. Ultimately, is that we all recognize that right now the courts are in favor of the institution, and we've got our tiered system. I would argue that those of us here who have discussed this would make prime jurors.
Yeah, of course.
If we ever let on, we would be kicked off of a jury instantly. And I would argue that probably of us, there's one of us here who would prefer to be on a jury than just skip it entirely. And that would
I'd
be-
opt out.
You'd opt out.
I'd opt out.
I would say that's a disservice to justice.
That's why,
in
I'd
this
opt out.
Yeah,
country.
I would want to be
Depending
a
on the
part of
case.
the jury.
Yeah,
Depending
you
on the
should
case.
you should always be on the jury.
Yeah, let's go.
And the
volunteer,
company
actually.
will pay
I've
you.
already
I
been
think
on there, but no.
Your employer will pay you for that.
So
time.
Forget employer payment.
Yeah,
and
dude, it's
But no, but
we
I'm
have
saying
to do
there's
our
nothing
part.
for me to lose.
No,
Like I would love to
Time.
part.
Well,
Sure,
there's
but that's
much
what I'm
to
saying.
gain.
You're
There's
getting
much to
paid
gain
for that
from it,
time.
too.
is what I'm saying.
Y'all touched on public and private schools,
Sure.
right? Let me touch upon this. What's your thoughts on public and private prisons?
I mean,
Private prison is crazy if you think about it.
dude, I think that it would be worse if they were all public.
You would think it would be worse.
Yes, yes.
Getty's in a private prison.
No, okay. So
It would be worse.
the reason why,
Like right
I-
now, like they say that private prisons make deals with the government and this and
So-
that. Imagine
Because
if
I
it
haven't
was
heard of this.
Yeah.
if they
I
were
see.
all
I've
the
heard that.
government.
so
I see.
the reason why
I
I
see.
bring this this topic is because obviously there's a show that I watch. It's like going into prison. This is a guy that goes in, tries to see the life of prisoners,
Mhm.
and the prisons in Sweden try to rehabilitate their prisoners,
Yeah,
but it's basically like an apartment complex.
Yeah.
yeah.
They live in an apartment.
They re-educate them.
They
reintegrate
re-educate them. They rehabilitate. They
Rehabilitate,
provide.
yeah.
They provide services like trades, like being a cook, mechanics, like all
Yeah.
these different
Yes.
things, right?
It's probably alien to me.
I don't know
Who-
much about
who,
private
who
public
does
prisons, but
and this goes back to, okay, now who does justice serves if a prisoner goes into
a luxury prison.
a luxury prison?
Well,
No, if they can
Well, I
be
think-
rehabilitated, I think it serves the society
But then-
and the assailant.
But then
It
the
serves the institution
hierarchy.
first.
yeah, it serves the institution first.
But then exactly. The hierarchy, does it? Because our hierarchy is the victim,
yeah, then
then society,
then society, then the
then
assailant,
the assailant,
then
and
The
the
institution.
institution.
so
I would argue, from the little that I know about the
Private-
society.
No,
how
I'm
they-
just
yeah,
giving the.
What I would argue, their system values institution first,
Mhm.
then society, then the not the assailant,
assailant.
then the victim.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
Yeah, they
victims
don't-
bottom
yeah,
of the barrel.
Prisons don't care about the victim. I mean,
yeah,
Right.
no, absolutely.
They
not.
they that's beyond their scope.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of like, so I don't know much about private and public prisons. I've always heard like, oh, we gotta get rid of private prisons, and
I don't know that there are public prisons.
I don't. I'm not even sure like what they mean by private. I'm not sure it means
they're
the same
they're,
thing.
They're privately owned corporations.
And
Yes.
operated. Okay, so
Yeah.
prisons.
Mhm.
Okay, so
I believe the government hands them prisoners in
It's-
exchange
it's-
for money.
It's it's
They
contracts.
Give them money
yeah.
to say, hold my prisoners for
Oh,
X
okay.
amount of
Okay,
years,
so
and then the prison is
people
in
who
charge
think
of
that
basically
that's a
holding on to them.
problem, but they also think that public school's a problem. They think that the government-owned judicial system is a
Right,
problem.
right.
They think that police are a problem. So I can't for the life of me see how all the people who think all these government institutions are highly corrupt and problematic, and then say, oh, private prisons need to be abolished and they need to be government owned. Like, dude, you think that everything government owned is already corrupt and to hell? What do you think is going to happen when they go from private?
Well,
To
them being
public.
private is not the issue. It's all of the money that's changing hands, and the word is escaping me, but the
There's a conflict of interest.
conflicts of interest.
Yeah.
Like that's the issue. That's the issue with all of organizations at the highest of levels. That there's too many conflict of interest,
We
Yeah.
might need
And-
private law enforcement.
and there's,
Yeah, no,
and
I
there's
think
conflict of
so too.
interest because
private law enforcement would be
Well,
choice.
you start venturing into private versus public versus just societal.
Societal.
Mm,
If the citizens could mete out their own justice in that aspect, right?
Yeah.
But you'd still have to contend with.
I mean
something
that
public.
so it would be like quasi anarchistic type scenario going on here.
Not quite, right? It's just a matter of, can you just remove implementations of law? For a good example, in Texas,
Mhm.
self-defense needs to meet a certain level of
scrutiny.
scrutiny before it's even considered by a judge. Up until that point, you're free to go.
I see. Great.
So something like that.
Yeah.
There's a citizens are free to do. It's not a matter of police
Yeah.
and private and public.
So again, I mean, it's
Right.
I think that would end up becoming to where like there's like an overarching police and judges, and then society would start doing that, and then all of a sudden they would start to kind of coagulate and become little justice system, little police system. You know what I'm saying? And it would be like an underlying police justice system underneath the bigger police and justice
Right.
system, and then there's going to
You
be a
just
group
keep
of
going.
people who are going to be like, oh, we need to, you know, and it's going to keep laddering.
At the end of the day,
uh,
I always argue there, in a society exists power, and how your society functions is a function of who owns that power and how much of that is meted out across different people.
How it's distributed.
And you've got all kinds of different groups that vie for that power, right? You've got the
course.
citizens, you've got the government institutions, you have private institutions. You start getting into, well, when the government's weak and the citizens are weak, now you've got gangs, cartels.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you start dismantling systems of power, that vacuum is going to be filled by something.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think that people who want that, which a lot of people want that.
Right.
I don't think they realize
Oh, they have no idea.
they have no clue, man. They have no clue. And like I always think about the quote from Mike Tyson. I'm pretty sure it's from Mike Tyson. He said that God punishes you by giving you what you want, right? And that is going to be
That
a
is
perfect example
deep.
of that.
My
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
that is deep.
Yeah, bro. It's a quite profound statement, dude.
Should be giving you what you deserve.
Sometimes what you deserve is what you want, and you don't really quite realize
That's
that
Be
what it
careful
all
what you
comes
ask
with.
for.
Yeah, be careful what you ask for. You know, so. But anyways, anything else?
Next time.
Any other thoughts?
Pretty good intro to justice.
Pretty good intro to justice and who
Are we
it
going
serves.
to expand on this topic next
Sure.
time?
Do y'all want to go more?
I don't
I
know.
mean, or do
next
y'all wanna
time,
go
It
ne-
might be a good idea to let it sit. for a
Let's
while.
let it sit. Okay, let's pick new topic for next episode. Then. Unless Bruce, you still got more you want to talk?
No, I'm good.
I mean, I think what Bruce touched up on was the family's responsibility of keeping their children accountable
Yeah,
so that we have a more just society.
yeah.
You know?
And
And we've talked about family and importance of family
Yeah,
values
of course.
before.
of course,
We
it's
can
all
do a part two on that.
it's all structuring quite well.
I mean, that just goes back to something that when we went back to the family, where I believe the right people are having less kids and the wrong people are having more kids.
I mean,
Yeah.
that points right back to the right people don't want to serve on a jury. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's the same thing. It's the same. It's the same.
yeah. It is.
I
the
mean,
same.
look, the right people, they need to take more responsibility on their weight on how things are going.
Yes.
Okay.
We can talk about accountability
And,
then.
well, yeah, accountability. Well, I mean, I think it goes far beyond just.
It's beyond
regular-
accountability.
Yeah, it's beyond. It's way beyond. It's like your civic duty.
That is accountability.
Well, yeah, but
Well, beyond it's beyond that to
it's
to
beyond
some
that
extent.
too, man.
It's like
your Christian duty. Maybe,
your
I don't know.
your awareness and your willingness to give up your own comfort or time or just the fact that you don't want to do something
luxury, whatever.
in an attempt to make society better.
Yeah. Yeah, we.
Self-sacrifice.
Yeah,
It's
sacrifice.
beyond civic duty. At
Yeah,
that
it really is.
It's carrying the weight of the cross. You know,
Of
that's
course.
essentially what it is.
Of
you know?
course.
If you I think the notes on like the Hart Fuller debates, I think people spent more time talking about a little bit of both. The natural law rejects that which is not moral.
Mhm.
Positivist, which is Hart, says there's a separation of law and morals. And Fuller talks about fidelity to the law.
See, that whole thing about natural law rejects anything that's not moral.
Command is given by the sovereign, so then he leads into the problem of penumbra, occasionally determining the meaning of words within the law. When established meaning seems obsolete, judges interpret.
Yeah.
Judges deciding what is from what ought to be.
Right.
What's a penumbra? What do you say?
Problem of penumbra, the shadow or like the cloud over inclusionary positivism, morally bad laws like the Third Reich, right? Extermination of, say, like a group of people. Allow a certain amount of morality into the legal system. Exclusionary, no moral consideration in the system of law. Hart defends a minimum constant theory of natural law, and Fuller is more like fidelity to the law, what ought to be. So he always includes morality. He thinks morality should be included, like within.
It's
so.
impossible to.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
not-
How do you
You
judge
ca- yeah.
without like morality
Yeah,
involved in the
it-
picture?
Everything that is moral is not legislated. Everything that appears in law has nothing to do with morality.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that statement. And
Yeah,
again,
everything that appears.
that's
in law has
why
nothing to
I
do with-
believe our founders were very smart about
Dude,
this.
they were
100%.
so
Because-
smart.
Man,
Despite the vast corruption we've had in this country for all governmental systems, we still have the jury system.
right.
And as much as they want to do jury selection and all that stuff, it's still like the last stopgap.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It is the last like check.
So that last piece where you said everything in legislature is not moral, you said? What
Everything
was-
that's moral is not in legislature.
yeah.
Everything. So I mean, but that doesn't mean that
Everything that is moral is not legislated.
is not legislated.
That's why jury needs to be involved.
Everything that's moral is not legislated. I see. So that means that it's not
Well,
codified.
internal morality, I think, comes from how one educates himself. If we
Right.
had to separate ourselves, the only thing that separates us from animals is education. But making it educated.
I think
And the spirit, I would say.
Right.
Well,
and the Latin root word education
from-
means
from
to
a-
bring out.
from a secular, I'll give a secular one without that. I think that our ability to go against instinct
Yeah, of course.
is quite, a difference. You know what I mean? And one of the things that you read was that natural law rejects anything that's not moral. I mean, that's the fruit bat thing.
Mhm.
So, can you say that fruit bats behaving that way is moral?
On its face, yeah. If it's prima facie, yes. But it's coming from animals.
Well, of course, but it's
would-
their moral.
I would go so far as to argue it is moral in the framework of them.
Right.
Yes,
right?
yes,
Right.
We are
Of an
discussing morality in the framework of
of us.
man.
Yeah, of man, of course.
Which is again why, from my get-go, I said we have to divorce this from the framework of morality of God.
Okay,
because
so-
if we applied strictly that, right?
no. See,
But no.
I disagree with that
No, no,
because
no.
okay, is the goal only to exist?
That's not what I'm getting at. That's not what I'm getting at.
Then what is it, Ken?
If you have the code of morality that exists on the God plane, right?
Yeah.
And you have the code of morality that exists on the human plane, the divorce isn't that it's completely separated.
Yes.
The divorce is that we cannot implement that level, but we can draw from it to influence ours,
Right.
which is important,
But
and
you
it should happen.
but you are striving.
You are striving,
for
but you
that
should
level.
make the full distinction that you cannot attain.
I mean,
We are human
so
at the end of the
okay.
day.
So from my understanding of what you're saying, you're basically saying that you can't eliminate, like for example, envy, right?
Sure.
You cannot fully eliminate.
Yes.
Is that what you mean by that?
To some extent. Not just, and you can't
No,
eliminate
not
the
just
human
envy.
aspect.
Yes, the human. You can't eliminate the human aspect. Okay, so then how can you have concrete "thou shalt not"? Like concrete, you cannot do this. How can you have that if the human aspect has to be continuously considered?
I don't think that it needs to be divorced from saying "thou shalt not murder," right?
Yeah,
I think that's pretty pervasive in a lot of culture,
yeah,
and I think if it's not, your culture is murdered.
yeah. Okay.
Pretty simply put,
Yes,
right?
sure.
So, in that instance, what I'm saying on a level of what is justice, there exist these codes. Thou shalt not murder does not apply to the divine. It applies to man.
Of course.
So again,
As far as we know.
that's
Right.
that's the divorce I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I see. But it comes from the divine,
Sure.
as we.
But God wouldn't be
understand.
murdering; He would be judging.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure. I mean, who are we to say what God will and will not do?
Right.
Well, okay. So you say that "thou shalt not murder" is not from the divine. I think that not murdering is a characteristic of the divine, right?
I would say it's something we're borrowing.
Well, no, but it's a characteristic. So like not
Can I see
stealing,
what
not
you-
murdering. That's a
Can I see this
characteristic
note right here?
of the divine.
I would argue that you could say it is a characteristic of striving towards the divine.
Well,
No,
I
no,
mean, it's
like-
a characteristic of the divine.
He
though,
he
because,
wrote here, command is given by the sovereign.
uh-huh.
So it's a command by God.
Yes.
Thou shalt not murder.
I understand. I understand that. But what I'm trying to get at is that I think that justice, in our strive for it, the implements of it, are trying to get us. Have you heard of the concept of theosis?
Yes.
I think that that's kind of
What is
like
that?
what theosis is, becoming like God. Like in that, like, what would Jesus do kind of
Yeah.
situation. So like that's what the whole concept of theosis is. So I think that justice is striving humanity towards that, right? So it's not, I'm kind of having a tough time recognizing how you're saying it's a divorced when it's a direct path in order to achieve.
I can put it this way. This won't make much sense to the secular at our table, but you commit a crime. Who metes out that punishment?
Well, man does, right?
When
And
you,
then God does.
when you die and you are judged,
Yeah.
who metes out that
Well,
punishment?
God does, right?
That is a separate thing
It's
entirely.
a separate justice system.
It is a
Well,
separate justice.
well, sure.
That's my only argument on that.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
mean,
you guys are
just
saying
like
the
the
same
fruit
thing.
bats, the fruit bats and the chimps
kind
have
of.
separate moralities and justice systems
Right.
than we do.
yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's what they're doing is not moral. and
Okay,
just.
so
My only argument is
what
is justice and who does it serve is on the plane of existence of man.
right.
sure.
We
Okay.
do not implement the codes of
I-
monkeys,
no,
and
I-
we do not implement the codes
Well, we
of God.
but
But it is influenced by.
we do have the same. So again, is the point of justice to ensure the survival of society? Because that's the same exact thing that the fruit bats are doing, right? They're just ensuring survival of society. So their little moral code is just geared purely for survival. Is
Right.
it the same for us?
Yes, with an asterisk.
I see. I mean, I kind of disagree.
Think so?
Yeah.
What do you think
How?
our justice serves?
I think that we strive to have value in life. We strive to be fulfilled in life,
Right,
not just
right.
survive
Yeah.
and all that. And I don't believe that fruit bats killed or greedy because they are striving to have a fulfillment.
Right.
Sure.
They're
right.
doing it purely for survival.
Right.
As a I guess, instinctual stimulus or whatever, right?
I would-
But
Well,
humans,
that was his point, because he's saying it's even then, like when you look at it, it provides an illustration,
Mhm.
right? That's what makes it divorce. If we can learn anything from the rule of reciprocity, right? It's look at what these bats are doing, right? Mother is taking more than her share, and what happens is all the other bats starve her to death, right? That seems to be like the law of nature.
Mhm.
You know, for example, everything that dies is compost,
Mhm.
right? The vultures are waste management,
Mhm.
right? They clean up the whatever is on the street, right? So when you're looking at human beings, say like in comparison, I wouldn't even consider it like a lesser. I'd say like, given that their brain is maybe a fraction of our size, you know, how is it possible that certain human beings don't practice the rule of reciprocity?
They got
Right.
bat brains,
Selfish.
dog.
They had one too many guano.
They had too much guano. Yeah, so
Guano.
Especially when you talk about value,
yeah.
right? Isn't that what you said? That human beings,
Yeah, we have like we have a need.
everybody wants to feel value.
Yeah, that we want to feel fulfillment, satisfaction, not just survive.
But
Like
understanding,
how Jay was saying.
but
prosper.
understanding that when you that in quotation marks, like satisfaction doesn't veer off into say like hedonism and self-interest and
No, of course not.
you know,
Right,
because like I said, when you talk about satisfaction, you're talking about, like, I go back to Skinner's behaviorism.
Yeah.
Like, if I want to educate people, if I want them on their best behavior, I have to provide some incentive, some reward.
Mhm.
Because if there's an incentive, there's nothing intrinsically good about people. I don't do things because of the value in and of itself.
You don't think so?
No, I'm just saying,
Oh.
like,
Oh, okay. You
that's the kind of
generally-
People in
person.
general. You're saying people in general. Okay.
Generally speaking, I
Okay.
don't do anything in and of itself. I only do it because I'm going to get something out of it.
I see. I think
So
that
it's never, it's not authentic. That person is not authentic
yeah,
to
yeah,
begin
true.
with.
That's
right?
true. Yes, I think that a lot of people are not acting purely because they see the inherent value in righteousness, right?
Because I can say you can say that people are only valued in terms of how useful they are,
Mhm.
right?
Well, it's true though.
yeah, it is true.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
yeah, yeah.
You know, and I take issue with that. You know,
Why? Why?
Because if you studied, I'm more like a Kantian. I think people are ends in themselves and should never be used as a means to an end. I think everybody has intrinsic value. That would be my.
I mean, there's a lot of like, everyone has.
I know where you're
intrinsic-
going. I already know where you're going with it. Trust me, I already know where you're going.
All right. Okay.
I'm pretty quick. I know where you're
I'm
going.
pretty sure I know you know where I'm going. So, but okay. So
You should treat, like I said, what Kant says, it's, if you use people as a means to an end, imagine that becoming a universal law, where everybody's doing wrong. That's what makes it objectively wrong, right?
Yeah.
That's how you bridge the gap between what's subjective and what should be objectively moral right. The thing is, can you ever be right about right and wrong? Right? If I think that everyone at this table has value, and it is not because
They're
I'm getting
useful.
something from them.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I don't. That's amoral to me, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, I think their usefulness increases their value, though.
The thing,
Does it not?
I'm sorry.
Their usefulness does increase their value.
Yeah, sure.
So you can say that there's a baseline inherent value.
Yeah,
to
there's
people,
there's like some benefit, but it's like
but you don't ascribe their value as a person due to the or
I
you don't
ascribe their
increase
value
their
as
value as a person because they're more useful. Like more usefulness means more value as a person, right? That's what you're trying to say.
Somewhat. I see them as human beings first.
But, of course, you see them as human beings first, and of course, you may see them as valuable. However, the more useful a person, like there's a base level value that a human may have.
Why
But
does
the more useful they are, the more value they have as a person.
why does a person, why are they intrinsically valuable?
Good question.
Potential.
And also, I think
Does that mean a 100-year-old is no longer valuable?
No.
No, I think
Not,
humans.
not in potential of age. Or,
I
or
think
life
humans
expectancy.
intrinsically have a value because we're made in God's image. You
There you
know,
go.
like we have a spark of divinity in all of us.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but
Yeah.
So again, I mean, that's whenever people start to argue that things are not worth human life, right? Like objects,
Right.
right, are not worth a human life,
Right.
right? So, do you agree?
What do you mean? You mean like
Like an object
has
is-
more value or equal value to a human being?
Yeah, that humans are always more valuable than objects, no
I,
matter the
I think
object.
they're in a different category of values.
I can agree with that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
of course.
like I don't think one person's life would be worth like $500 billion.
Yeah. What is it? What do you mean? You don't think it's not worth $500 billion?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It's hard to
Well,
like.
that
I think
person-
it's in a
person's worth
different
so-
category.
so,
$500
yeah,
and they
I
assign their
think-
value off of.
I think it is a different
Well,
category.
their net worth
However,
is intertwined with their self-worth. If you're talking about value, like most people are treated, say, like this table,
Mhm.
it has use because we can put things on it,
Mhm.
right? A man has use because
How
he's
should they
able
be
to
treated?
produce, like human beings,
and what is
like
that?
you said, in terms of potential.
But what does that mean?
Well, the question.
How do you treat a human being, as opposed to treating them as a useful tool?
By taking into account that I make room for kindness, by demonstrating respect, by understanding
You
there's
can
a
respect
difference.
objects. A lot of people do respect objects.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, say, like your car, for example.
Mhm.
But I understand there's a distinction to be made between me valuing you as a human being because I have respect for you as a human being, which is different than the respect that I would have for, say, like an inanimate object like my car, because it may have value, but you have more value than, say, like that object itself.
Yeah.
Now, it could be about self-objectification and selfishness, where if I'm treating you as, say, like no different than my car, the only time I talk to you or any of you is unless I need something from you. And that's the value like, in that sense that you would have for me, right? I consider that like amoral.
Or amoral or immoral?
Amoral.
Interesting.
Or non-moral.
I see. So it's not. Is it wrong? If it's amoral, that
Yeah, you're saying it's a neutral thing.
no. Well, no, hold on. Immorality can be described as the greatest evil.
So there's
So
one thing.
how do you see that amorality? Is it,
Well,
is it bad or
I
not?
I know. Like, if I know what the right thing to do is, and I don't do it, I'd consider that evil.
Yeah.
I'd consider it wrong. I'd consider
100%.
it amoral. I know
100%.
what the right thing to do is, but I just don't think I'll do it.
Right.
You know, you
Well,
can
that's-
you
that's-
can go,
but that-
you can go, you can okay, but
So
you can go.
that is amoral.
You
Yeah,
can
of
go.
course.
You can go to
course
extreme
it is.
end, and I know someone that knows you, and then like somebody steals from you, right? Because they have something that you want. Right? Is that valuing that person as a human being, having respect for their property, having respect for them? Well, not at all. Right. You know, you don't. That's a good question, though, when you talk about what value intrinsically do people have, so what they should have. You can say they have a spark of the divine, right? If we're all God's children, fundamentally, I should have respect for everyone.
Right.
Like I said before, there's no such thing as not in my case, to where if someone doesn't establish boundaries, what I do is I overstep my bounds. And because they don't set those boundaries, I just go ahead and do it anyway because they allow me to do it. Because I don't know right from wrong.
Right.
I see.
I don't do that. Right? That's
Well,
not
I
something
mean,
I subscribe to.
because you have like a certain self-awareness.
A code, a moral
Yeah,
code, a moral compass.
But the moral compass, I think that the moral compass has a lot to do with your self-awareness as well, right? Because if you don't have self-awareness, then you're going to be stepping on bounds all over the place,
So
right?
like, how do people get that self-awareness is by being taken advantage of?
You think that's the only way, or is that
That's
the main way?
that's one of the ways. Because you have
Okay.
to reflect.
What's a less offensive way that someone can gain self-awareness?
I don't know. Depends on the person. like if I've been taken advantage of, or
You want to know one
Say-
thing that I think that it gives people a lot of self-awareness?
what's up?
We talked about it in episode 1 is martial arts.
Yeah.
I think that gives them a great amount of self-awareness.
Their
and
limitations, being vulnerable.
being vulnerable, limitations,
Discipline.
discipline, getting pseudo taking advantage of, right? Getting bested, right?
Yeah,
all those
absolutely.
things. So it's quite interesting.
Being consciously vulnerable is like another way. So I mean, if I see someone is vulnerable, I don't take advantage of it.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
of course
it's like
not.
they said.
That's evil. That's
yeah.
evil.
They
Of course.
said, you know, you'll be loved the way you'll be loved the day the person doesn't use your weakness to assert your strength.
Hmm.
Right? He's like, you'll be loved the day the person doesn't use your weakness to assert their strength. You know somebody's weak in one area, and what you do is you take advantage of them. That's amoral.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be one thing not to know, right?
Yeah.
To
Being
be
ignorant.
comfortable in your ignorance because no one has set you straight. Which is
Yeah.
why it's always important to tell the truth. If you tell the truth, then you gain that person's trust,
Genius.
right? If you don't,
Yeah.
if you want to lie to them because you care about their feelings, I mean, how does that benefit them?
How does that
Right.
benefit you too? You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's short term. It would be short term gain. That's
Right.
Fully. So
Right.
on that, saying that it's short term gain,
And it's manipulation.
and it's been let's just stick with the short term gain. Is this fully because of the short term gain? I can make the case that because it's only that, it's not conducive to just overall survival long term, and therefore, is this a fully secular idea?
Behaviorism, I mean, I'd say it's. I wouldn't
No,
even-
no,
wouldn't
I,
call it-
I think there's some principalities that's meshed in.
Yeah.
You know, because
But what is those principalities striving again? What is the principality striving for, right? Because what he's saying and what we arrive to is that that's only a short-term gain, and therefore it's not conducive to long-term survival.
right, but you're going against one of the principles, like being honest and truthful.
Yeah.
You're breaking that principle and gaining that short gain.
Yes,
but in the long term, you're
You're
gonna lose
suffering.
trust
Yeah.
in the long run, and you're gonna suffer. For
Yeah,
it,
but
you know
that's
what I mean.
of course,
And that's what I
not,
mean.
That's not conducive to like a healthy survival of a society, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So
Right.
therefore, can't that be a secular argument for why these principles are important? Because it's only for the long-term survival.
I see what you mean.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
now, what I would respond to that if someone were to ask me is that, again, survival is a baseline. And even through survival, just survival, you can have a great amount of suffering. And because of that, it's not just for long-term survival. Because you want to have not just cohesion, but a satisfying level of cohesion. You know what I mean? In a fulfilling amount of cohesion with those around you and your neighbors, and that's where I think that the principles of Christianity come in. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, I've always been stuck like at that line because what I say, you have to make room for love to enter the picture.
yeah,
Right. Once you reach your end with like justice and revenge and, you know, people have wronged me and, you know, I deserve X, you know, because it's not fair. You know, it's whether you put one in front of the other. Like if you don't have a foundation for love, right? Because in that case it's about being loved. Right? It's not loving. Loving is a verb. That's different.
yeah,
Loving, like actually like loving, you're gonna get the short end of the stick.
yeah.
For
Well,
sure.
and like
People-
you've said
it takes-
before, you have to be courageous to do that.
Yeah.
For
And Jordan Peterson had said that. He's like, people are full of snakes.
Yeah,
You know, because one, you've been naive, right? Because you've trusted somebody and they've broken your trust, you know, because you're trying to love them. And then I'd probably argue back. It takes courage to do it. And I'm like, well, you're right back to being naive.
Well,
It takes when you're
is
like
that-
you
is
said
that-
when
okay,
you're
so
aware because
is
you're
it,
aware of it.
Is it? Yeah, but I mean, you're no longer naive, right? Like once you have built the courage to do it again, it's not out of naivety.
Yeah, you're taking risks.
Do you think you're naive?
Yeah,
What's-
because I remember being stupid.
So, but how is that naivety?
Yeah, but you said you gotta
Yeah.
have enough love to be in the picture,
no. He said
right?
he said
It
you,
takes courage.
you have to be courageous in order to love, and you're saying that after you've been done wrong, and you've
Because you were
be-
naive.
because you were naive, and you gain the courage to love again.
Yeah.
Do you believe that you are entering a state of naivety
Not in
again?
a state. You have to confront it again.
The naivety, but
naivety.
well, you have to confront the condition that the
You
naivety facilitated, but you're not naive again.
Right, you're not naive again.
I think that's where the courageousness comes from.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, when you're naive, you're not necessarily
Can
doing
be
it.
naive again.
Oh, well, I mean, you can be,
But
but
if
A
you
lot of
never
people are.
if you never
it's
learn,
like I said, it's
and
what's
fully-
natural. It's. I wouldn't say naive. I say vulnerability.
I think that's a better word.
It's
well,
vulnerability.
I mean,
That takes-
first off, it's naivety that makes you be vulnerable.
Right.
Then you get crushed, and then you build the courage, and it's the courage
For
that
you to be
allows you to
vulnerable
be
again.
vulnerable again.
Right.
So
You're pissing me off.
I'm not.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah, no, this is a good example.
Look, you, and everyone's smart enough to figure out the analogy. I build my house out of straw.
Yeah.
Someone comes and blows it down.
Yeah.
I build my house out of wood.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on the kind of piggy you are, usually you can build your house out of steel.
Mhm.
Right? But every time your house gets blown down, you have the tools to make a stronger house.
Mhm.
Right? So I can see what you're saying. You never go back to not having the tools. It's like how to get the tools to make yourself stronger. But at the same time, on the inside of the house, I mean, it could be empty. Right?
Yeah. So
The first house you built was, I could ask, why is this person destroying my house?
he's a wolf, big
Yeah.
bad wolf.
Yeah.
You
Why
know?
are you destroying my house?
Yeah.
Even then, he's outside my door. Why are you trying to destroy my house? I've obviously made it stronger. You can't. Why do you keep doing that?
Mhm.
Right? And you say, well, that's just
What they
what I
do.
do.
Yeah.
right. You should be a point in your development to where you can tear down your own house. And
Not
build a
let it
bigger
affect
one.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And build a
Yeah.
stronger one.
Yeah.
You don't need to. But I
What
think
is
But
it,
you
Oscar?
ought to.
What are you trying to
Yeah.
say?
Brother, I built my house on the rock, baby. Like,
Well, see, that's a
Alright.
good point because
Amen.
you can build your house.
On a sand.
Well, now you're so good at it. I'm thinking about the foundation. Like, oh, why don't I build it like in the mountains, where the mountains serve like it's the foundation for my castle, not house. Then you can never destroy it. You can try, but
It's like Minas Tirith on
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings. You know?
Hey, them orcs were breaking into that.
Hey, man,
though.
they had trouble though.
but do you see, even before you get then, if my house ever got blown down, I'm just fine.
Yeah.
Even if I don't have anything to live in, I'm perfectly fine because I'm
You have the
it's
tools to
made
do
me-
it again.
Yeah, it's made me stronger.
Of course.
I can build my house whenever I feel like it and wherever I feel like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm no longer afraid. I kept building houses because I was afraid of vulnerability.
Yeah.
If I'm out in the cold, I don't feel safe out here.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that you had mentioned to me before was whenever you talked about this topic of like justice and who does it serve, and you had said that you had a real big conflict about how does justice, the administration of justice, and love exist.
How they're
Together.
irreconcilable.
Yeah. So can you want to talk about that a little bit right now, or do you want to wait until?
I mean, I could.
Just give us a little bit.
I started on love before I gave you like the I guess that little analogy. But like I said, it's about depending on the memory of your experience. I guess as I've read, You know, if you don't have a foundation where you were treated with respect, I see respect, self-respect, and respect is like the foundation for love. If you don't respect the person that you're with, you know, how could you ever love them? Right? Why? How do you avoid being dependent on one another? You know, for I guess for
everything, basically.
yeah,
right?
pretty much. It's more like every you have two human beings that should strive to be authentic, right? And you build each other up along the way. You know, it works like this, right? But most people, if they haven't been treated with the respect that they deserve, right, they'll fall into I'm more focused on being loved as opposed to actually, you know, loving somebody.
Right.
But then there's a caveat with loving because intrinsically, I'm not expecting anything back. You have to build yourself, and that's extremely difficult
Yeah.
because I'm everything that I'm doing for you, I'm not getting anything back, you know. Because in your mind, I can't expect anything back. And then you start studying. I go back to my interpretation of what justice is, right? One, because I'm not being treated fairly, right? And I kind of, well, I'm not going to engage in the act of loving until I'm treated fairly or until I'm respected, because the foundation of love is based strictly on those. Without those, how do I do it? That'd be a question. And to answer that subjectively before you answer it objectively, you have to fall back your own experiences, because it'll facilitate the kind of choices and decisions you make in your relation to other people or one specific person, right?
Yeah. But
So how do you do it?
Well, I mean, I think that you're asking.
Ask it again.
I forgot.
what I think that what kind of like, again, you know, you'd be asking me in the perspective of someone who would be probably acting unloving to their neighbor, right? That's what
I think
that last question
Bruce,
kind of signifies to me.
You're saying that in order for something to be fair and just, there has to be mutual respect and love between the two things.
Of course.
And then the question was, how can something be fair and just without respect and love? And I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, it's not possible.
Yeah, it's not possible.
And it first starts with me acknowledging you as a human being and not an object.
Right.
How can
Acknowledging you
something
that
be
you're
fair and
not
just
useful
without
to me
respect
because I
and
can
love?
get something from you.
Right.
Right.
Well, so that's why, you know,
Which right now the system is we can get everyone's dollar bills out of them.
That's right.
so I mean, so are you supposed to respect and love people who are harming others in your administration of justice?
In the sense that, yes, we need to love them enough to give them a fair and just
Absolutely.
punishment
Yeah.
that
Love thy
serves
neighbor.
towards
Yeah.
their rehabilitation.
Well,
Yeah.
I think this points more towards you should love and respect someone enough to give them the benefit of the doubt that they knew exactly what they were doing,
Oh,
and not
jeez.
start treating them like they're children
Or insane, you know.
or criminally insane
Yeah.
who don't know what they're doing. Are you
Yeah.
meting out justice
Well, I mean that
if you're
that's-
mollycoddling them?
that's part of the respect thing,
Right.
you know, like you're saying, you know,
On
like
the topic of that respect,
you
I
have to
would
treat them
say
like an adult. You respect them like an adult.
You also need to look at that, I think, not just on an individual level, but how does the individual treat and respect someone? How does society treat and respect someone? And then look at it also as the victim and as the assailant. How do they interact in that same framework? And then pour it over to the institution.
I mean, I think that the love and respect can be used for and against, like, bringing down the hammer of law on
Absolutely.
someone, right?
Absolutely.
Because in one case, you could say it's unfair to bring down the hammer because you don't love and respect. The other case, such as yours, is that bringing down the hammer of the law is respectful, because you are seeing them as a human being that should have human being faculties.
And
I think
that's why a
levels-
judge needs to be wise to take all that into account whenever
Yeah.
they're judging somebody.
But also, the
Yeah.
hammer can still be loving. The hammer,
course.
but that's why the
again-
punishments have to be set up, and that's why the construction of the institution needs to be built with love and respect.
Again, the tier, right?
Right.
So,
Love and respect to who?
Who are you loving and respecting first?
The victim,
The victim,
Right.
the people.
Yeah.
society,
Yeah.
the assailant.
And then the institution.
I don't think you need to be loving and respecting the institution very much.
I mean, at
No,
least
you do.
respect.
No.
At
No,
least
I think
respect.
you do.
To some
You do.
extent.
You do. No, of course, but just joking around over here. You know me. But yeah. So.
I no,
that's
that was
quite-
a
that's quite
brilliant
interesting.
point. I think like
That
that,
is a-
like
that is a
we
brilliant
almost
point.
found the little solution, like a little speck of solution.
Well,
there.
of course. I mean, we've been coming upon some pretty brilliant things in our discussions. I feel like all right. Well,
Yeah, this probably is a good spot
Good-
to
right.
start.
yeah, I'm down. I'm down to end it here. But again, as tradition, what topics do we have?
Anybody have a topic?
Anybody
I-
have a topic?
I have a topic.
What's up, Jevin?
So
I'm down.
one of the biggest in literature, one of the biggest plot devices is the hero's journey.
Okay.
It's
yes,
the
sir.
it's the oldest story,
Yep.
pretty much from the dawn of time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a really interesting conversation to kind of dissect and analyze that, and talk about how the different aspects of it can be applied to people in positions of power,
Mhm.
or people who, in our own life, we are constantly going through minor heroes' journeys. You know,
Yeah,
we're,
yeah.
we're being thrust.
The archetype, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're being given loads of responsibility out of nowhere. We have to rise to the occasion. Everything gets taken from us. We have to regroup and rebuild to finally.
You have quests. Go talk to the guy
You
over
have
there.
quests, yeah.
And then
So-
gain it. Right.
So
Yeah.
I think dissecting the hero's journey and applying that to real life, I think we could gain a lot of knowledge from that.
Yeah,
it's
for
not
sure.
as not as a hard topic as some of the ones we've been talking
Yeah,
about.
it's
Yeah.
more of like a dream, like topic.
Yeah, a little
you
more.
know?
One of the things that I noticed, and I was watching something about video games, and they were talking about how video games start about like heroes and like hard heroes, and people have slowly been falling in love with more neutral people, and then villains, and now people really liking villains a lot, like currently.
Villains
right
are
now?
anti-heroes.
Yeah.
Well, the line is being blurred, and so like people are really falling in love with that, and you see how society is, and it's interesting, right?
I think it's
Because people
very.
love the anti-hero.
Yeah.
They always have.
Yeah, well, not as much as the hero.
Well,
You know?
the anti-hero is like the Punisher, right?
Sure.
The guy who, yeah. Well, Deadpool is even like
He has like
It's a level of vigilante justice.
it's
Yeah.
Anti-hero.
it's a level of doing what needs to be done regardless.
yeah,
you know? And but yeah, that's a little separate. But you're right. The people definitely. I mean, Wolverine,
yeah.
Deadpool,
Magneto,
Magneto.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
People have been loving the.
Superman.
But one of the things that, I don't want to talk
Batman.
too much about it, but one of the things I did, I mean, I noticed in my own life is I've been kind of agreeing with some villains lately. You know what I'm saying? like I'm like,
I know I do.
he has a point, and
the best villains have points.
dude,
It's the way
not,
they-
Yeah,
not only
for
do they
sure.
have points,
It's the way
I
they go
would be
about
on their side.
Hey,
You
look,
know what I'm saying?
Thanos.
Like, I would be one of their little foot soldiers too.
Look,
is how much of
Thanos.
the point.
All right, you
know
need
what I
to
mean?
calm down.
So
What's that saying?
It's crazy.
It's like in a world of insane men, it's the rational men that are insane or something. like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it really is, but I think that there's also a function of like the whole cookie cutter good guy back then of like, oh, super morality and this and that. I mean, the way that they were pushing things that we see
Right.
now are pretty not straight. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, all right. Anyone else got any
Topic?
topics?
I like that topic actually.
Any?
Yeah, we can go with that.
Well, I mean, I had a topic, so.
All right,
What's
Carlos,
your
what's your
Oh,
topic?
listen,
Yeah.
sounds like I already got five votes.
Yeah, well, we go with his, but I was thinking about like anthropomorphizing animals in media,
Oh, like making them like
Yeah.
looking hot,
no,
like cats with titties. And
no,
No, just-
what the
just-
hell? Just
Just humanizing things that
just
aren't human.
humanizing them, bro.
Oh, you mean
I thought that's what you were saying. Man.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Cats with titties. We can talk about that.
No, bro, like giving them human features, making them like humans and stuff like that.
Like giving them morals. And,
Yeah, no, I mean like making them humanist, like humanistic, like
And to what end?
yeah, and to what end? Like animals that can talk and are teaching the main characters their way of being.
Why don't you like Paw Patrol? Bro?
You know, yeah, I mean that, like Ratatouille type stuff like
You're
that.
talking
you
like
know?
Ice
Bluey
Age
is
and-
sick.
Ice Age, you know, what effects does anthropomorphizing animals have, and is it good or bad?
What's for children?
Well,
Yeah,
the,
is it
the
good or bad?
Bible did it with
Where?
the snake.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
but was it a good
Good.
outcome?
It wasn't.
Like it wasn't a good
It's
outcome.
that's
It
one
served
of,
to illustrate,
that's one of
Right,
my
and-
points. It
yeah.
illustrated something bad.
and
Yeah,
now
but-
it's kind of illustrating.
Now it's like to use to be like, hey, jolly happy, you know. I bet you that's how the snake came to Eve. Hey, and sang a whole
Yeah.
song about the apple, you know what I mean, with all the birds and shit. And then all of a sudden we're here. So that was my. But we can go with Jevons. I mean, that was just one topic that I was thinking about. We can go with Jevons. So
Okay, have you got one or no?
the hero's journey.
I don't got one.
DeAndre.
Not off the top of my head, no.
No. All right.
cool.
Hero's journey.
Hero's
How it
journey.
applies to life. Sounds
Yeah,
good to me.
I love that actually.
What's up?
I've been thinking about something lately, and it's glorifying with all these new like with all these new television shows about like murderers and stuff like that. When has it been okay to glorify or make it known to like give like somebody who created murder this like, oh, he's a
pedestal?
good guy, like
He
like,
looks good.
like
He's
for
hot.
example
Like the
what-
show Lucifer.
like for example like what's this recent like television show
Menendez
about the
brothers.
the Menendez brothers?
Yeah.
They glorified
Yeah.
like
I mean,
killing and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and
They do.
Well,
it
I
with
mean,
intention,
there's
you
a
know?
lot of idolatry. I guess you're gonna have to flash out the topic. dude,
Yeah,
'cause it's kind of
It's
generalized.
like
Yeah.
it's like the glorification of evil.
Yeah,
in a sense.
glorification
And the
of evil in
edginess,
general.
you know?
Yeah, the edginess of evil. and
I
stuff
think
like
I think part of it is our innate want to look at a car crash.
Something
You know what I
like
mean?
Yeah.
It's like, like these two guys are so fucked up enough to where they're gonna kill both their parents. Like, I have to know what's going
The
on.
question
It's not
becomes,
written.
what are you feeding
that.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
Why
like,
are you-
How did it get? Like, it's almost like a curiosity of that person. Like, how did these two kids get to that point?
It's boredom.
Yeah.
Boredom.
If
yeah.
you read Schopenhauer, it's boredom.
All right. Yeah. All right.
All right.
Jevon's topic sounds good.
All right.
Good talk.
That's a wrap. Good talk, guys.